Within the orc-occupied zone, tens of thousands of civilians and orc ground troops tilted their heads toward the sky, witnessing a scene they would never forget for as long as they lived. A Daqian-class battleship, symbol of royal honor and might, had shattered into several blazing fragments, tearing through the azure firmament and plummeting toward the barren wasteland outside the city with a howl of annihilation. The instant of impact, it felt as though the entire planet trembled. A shockwave visible to the naked eye swept outward, whipping up a sky full of dust and sand that rose into a towering mushroom cloud 10,000 meters high. Heaven and earth shook, and sun and moon seemed to lose their light. The moment the escape pod slammed into the ground, Chi Miao felt as if her internal organs had been knocked out of place. The violent jolts turned her vision black, and the ringing in her ears screamed like countless cicadas. The safety harness bit deeply into her body as the metal bulkheads groaned under the overload. When everything finally fell silent, she and the others aboard painstakingly unfastened their restraints and shoved open the warped hatch. A pungent smell of smoke, earth, and alien vegetation rushed in to assault their senses. Chi Miao, General Lin, and the others staggered out. Turning back, they gazed toward the former stretch of wasteland more than 10 kilometers away where the battleship had crashed. Before them lay a hilly landscape ravaged by war. Now all that remained there was a bottomless crater whose edges were still melting, and within it a still-burning tomb of twisted steel, its original form no longer discernible. The sky was a strange pale blue tinged with violet, and the outline of a distant city flickered in and out of sight through drifting smoke. More than 10 kilometers away, a massive burning fragment of the Tianshu how jutted into the earth like a metal mountain, billowing black smoke straight into the heavens. Tianshu how? Chi Miao's voice trembled, her eyes filled with incredulous fury. That had been her flagship, her royal vessel as a princess and the pride of the Third Fleet. And just like that, it was gone. After a battle they had already won decisively, it had fallen upon the very planet she was sworn to protect in the most humiliating way imaginable. Her soldiers had been reduced to dust in that single explosion. Any battleship, even the Empire's Death Stars deployed on the Zerg front, was exceedingly fragile within a, let alone the Tianshu how, which was but a battleship Arrow-class vessel. A great bewildering emptiness surged over her like a tide, yet within a mere heartbeat, she forced it back down. She was a princess of the Daqian Empire. She could not collapse here. Chi Miao quickly checked herself and the others. Aside from a few scrapes and bruises from the impact, their bodies had suffered no serious harm. The escape pod survival kit was intact, containing several pistols, a few spare energy clips, a vial of concentrated nutrient solution, and a set of basic medical tools. Around her, countless red light dots representing hostile forces were rapidly converging from all directions. Your Highness, General Lin tried to offer a few words of comfort, but his throat was so dry that he could not force out a single sound. The other officers also kept their heads bowed, the air so heavy it was almost solid. The elation of victory had completely vanished, replaced by stifling frustration and lingering dread. At this moment, they were still deep within the orc-occupied zone. Just then in the distance, they spotted orc forces closing in. With no time to think, General Lin and the others hurried back into the lander, found the control console, pressed several commands, and confirmed. After a series of transformations, the landing capsule reshaped itself directly into a light tank. It was only natural that the royal flagship's escape pods would be somewhat different. Across the vast desert, countless surviving landing capsules also began to transform, then scattered in desperate flight. A voice came through the communicator. Your Highness, General, everyone. So long as you are alive, that is what matters. Gudong's voice was not loud, yet it carried clearly into each person's ears. Chi Miao lifted her head, the fury in her heart flaring up all at once. Alive? Gudong, my flagship is gone. Thousands of brave soldiers died without even knowing how they died, and you tell me it's fine. She seldom lost control like this, but the fall of the Tianshu how had utterly shattered her pride and reason. Meanwhile, General Lin was driving the vehicle in wild bounding leaps, while several officers had already climbed onto the roof to operate the turret guns and machine guns. Gudong did not refute her. He merely watched in silence until Chi Miao was panting from agitation, then spoke slowly. Your Highness, the dead are gone, but the war is not yet over. What we must do now is not grieve here, but determine who our enemy truly is and what they intend to do next. Our most urgent task is to make sure you are not captured and turned into a hostage. His words fell like a bucket of cold water over Chi Miao's head, and her thoughts started to clear. Indeed, the war was not over. Though the orc fleet had been routed, their true enemy now was no longer the fleet, but the orcs' ground forces. The mastermind who had planted a nuclear device aboard the flagship without a trace and dispatched a Grandmaster-level assassin still lurked unseen in the shadows. Yet to anyone with eyes, it was clear the Zerg were behind it. I have already contacted the garrison I previously stationed on this planet. They will rush to your aid. Before they arrive, you must flee toward this location. Gudong transmitted precise coordinates 300 kilometers from Chi Miao's current position. She opened the micro-terminal on her wrist where a green marker representing the rendezvous point blinked 300 kilometers away. Report. A communications officer on the Longyuan House strode quickly up to Gudong and saluted. General, Regiment Commander Wang Wei has sent word the asset has been safely transferred, but Grandmaster Seong and an unidentified woman were gravely injured in the explosion and are now withdrawing urgently from the crash zone. Understood, Gudong nodded. With Chi Miao now unable to command, Gudong had become supreme commander of the entire fleet. There were still more than 500,000 orc soldiers on Qianlong Star. The situation was dire. Order the carrier fleet to immediately deploy transport craft and landing pods, send the Star Warriors down, and cover Chi Miao's retreat. Battleships and cruisers are to commence wanton strikes on orc strongholds at once. Gudong spoke to Chi Miao over the communicator. Your Highness, it seems our enemies have two objectives, he said. First, to kill the orc prince and provoke an endless total war between the Empire and the orcs. Second, you and everyone aboard the Tianshu Hao. They want to wipe out the entire command echelon of the Empire's Third Fleet. Imagine what happens when each side's own children die at the hands of the other. Their ultimate goal is to completely enrage both us and the orcs and ignite a great war. Chi Miao's face turned deathly pale. Only now did she truly realize how close she had just come to dying. Had she not reacted in time and fled into the escape pod, she would likely have already been reduced to cosmic dust together with the Tianshu. Then what should we do now, eh? Chi Miao's voice unconsciously carried a trace of dependence. In such a bizarre and perilous situation, Gudong's composure and sharp insight had become the only lifeline she could cling to. It's very simple. A shard of icy sharpness flashed in Gudong's eyes. Since the enemy wants to throw us into chaos, we must simply refuse to panic. They want to pit us against the orcs in a fight to the death. Then we will make sure the orcs learn the truth instead. He paused, the corner of his lips lifting in a playful smile, tinged with a faint, almost imperceptible sense of satisfaction. Moreover, they have delivered us a generous gift. A gift, eh? General Lin asked in confusion. Gudong did not answer directly. Instead, he opened his personal terminal and pulled up a piece of video footage. It was recorded by the helmet cam of a dark angel. At the center of the image lay a woman, her body charred black, unconscious and motionless, Zhaoing, codenamed Nightingale. She's an accomplice of the assassin and still alive. Once we pry open her mouth, we'll learn many interesting things. Gudong spoke in a flat, indifferent tone. In addition, the orc Prince Wanyan Tian is still alive, and we have him firmly under our control. For the moment, you are safe as well. We still have a way out. Chi Miao and General Lin exchanged a glance and instantly understood what Gudong meant. The enemy had gone to great lengths to fabricate an accomplished fact that the orc prince had died at the hands of the Empire. Yet now the prince was very much alive, and both living and physical evidence, Zhaoing, were in their grasp. The initiative had instead fallen back into human hands. The Empire could now present the living prince and the proof pointing to the mastermind behind the scenes and go to the Orc King for a friendly consultation. Would he choose to believe a third party bent on sowing discord and fight the powerful Empire to the bitter end, or face reality and join hands with the Empire to uncover and confront this common enemy? For any rational ruler, the answer to that question was self-evident. In any case, floor the throttle now and flee toward the designated objective as fast as you can. We will provide support. Inside the spaceport at the rear logistics command center, the Tianshu's sacrificial explosion was like a star-going supernova, sending shockwaves through the entire command. On the port's command bridge, the relaxed mood born of victory was snuffed out in an instant, replaced by dead silence, and a terror so intense it was almost tangible. The red glare of the alarm lights spun madly, casting everyone's bloodless faces in a hellish hue. Report. The Tianshu's signal has vanished. Confirmed internal disintegration. The voice of a young monitoring officer trembled so badly it was almost unintelligible, and he nearly fell out of his chair. Where is Her Highness the Princess? Zhao Wuchen's eyes were bloodshot as he seized the collar of the communications officer beside him, roaring hoarsely. At that moment, he was consumed with worry for his daughter Zhaoing. The last signal we captured was over a dozen escape pods being ejected, falling toward the surface of Hidden Dragon Star, into the orc-occupied zone. It was over. Those two words crashed down on everyone in the port like blocks of lead. If Her Highness the Princess were to fall into the hands of the 500,000 orc ground troops, the consequences would be unimaginable. That outcome would shatter the Empire's morale and honor even more thoroughly than a simple death in battle. Calm yourselves. At the very moment when everyone felt utterly at a loss, a cold and steady voice pierced through the entire spaceport like an anchor dropped into a stormy sea. Gudong's figure appeared on the main screen. For now, I am the highest authority in command. I order you to immediately assemble all ground forces. The counteroffensive will begin ahead of schedule. Yes, we will immediately deploy the landing pods and ground assault troops. After finishing his call, with Chi Miao, Gudong stood before the main control console. His expression was equally grim, yet his eyes were sharp as blades, utterly devoid of panic. From the very first second of the explosion, his mind had already begun to race at full speed. Marquis Ma, Gudong bellowed without even turning his head. Here, Ma Ditsai's burly figure stepped forward in a single stride. How many Dark Angel regiments do we still have? Reporting, sir. Aside from the one regiment that boarded the ship with Her Highness, there are still 8 regiments within the spaceport. 8,000 interstellar warriors ready to enter the fray at any time. Ma Ditsai's voice boomed like a great bell brimming with strength. Good. Then you will command them. Gudong set a flash of resolve in his gaze. Order them all into the landing assault pods. Their target is the surface of Hidden Dragon, star the sector where Her Highness fell. I don't care what means you use. In 30 minutes, I want them in low orbit above that planet. It was an emergency, and every second was precious. There was no longer time to fully wipe out the Orcs' air defense forces. They would simply have to put up with the danger. Yes, sir. Without the slightest hesitation, Ma Ditsai turned and strode away, issuing orders over the battle group channel even as he moved. Gudong turned to the ashen-faced General Li Gang, beside him. Here, the general answered as he came back to himself, looking at Gudong. The calm and decisiveness this young fourth-rank noble displayed in the face of such earth-shattering upheaval gave Li Gang a faint sense of reassurance. Immediately take over all port defense systems and begin calculating the coordinates for fire coverage on the sector where Her Highness fell. At the same time, order all carrier battle groups to launch their carrier-based fighter wings at once. At any cost, they are to tear open the Orc ground forces' air defense net and create a window for our ground troops to land. But our carrier-based fighters suffered grievous losses in the previous battle. That is an order, Gudong said. His voice was not loud, yet it carried a weight that brooked no dissent. If the Emperor were to hear such words at a time like this, he might have someone shot on the spot. My daughter is about to die, and you're fretting over fighter losses. Then again, it was only natural. After all, Li Gang had been summoned by Gudong himself. They heeded only his commands and would only calculate from his perspective. In addition, notify all garrison units previously stationed on the ground using the Princess's landing point as the center. They are to launch a full-scale counteroffensive. Tell them this is to rescue the Empire's bloodline. Casualties are not to be counted. The cost is not to be questioned. Fallen soldiers will receive a pension of 500,000 Federation coins. Gudong was investing heavily, but in any case, he could later have the royal family reimburse the expense. Of the 700,000 troops Gudong had left to garrison the planet earlier, 300,000 remained, and now was the time for them to take the stage. Understood. General Li gritted his teeth and immediately began to relay the commands. After a brief moment of paralysis, the war machine of the entire joint fleet roared back to life, operating once more in an even more frenzied and efficient manner. Gudong's gaze shifted to the main screen where a red dot representing Chi Miao's escape pod flickered continuously. It was currently accelerating away. We need to urgently send high combat capability assets to alleviate Chi Miao's current predicament. The soldiers on the battlefield are too obvious a target. They will surely be besieged by the Orcs as soon as they land. Support will definitely be too late. Gudong seemed to think of something. His fingers flew over the console, and a secure communication request was sent out. Master Huan Yu. In the communication screen, Master Huan Yu's cold visage appeared, her background a training room within the spaceport, evidently unaware of the upheaval occurring outside. She had been injured during the decapitation operation and had been recuperating in the spaceport since her return. Commander Gu, has the battle ended? No, a new war has just begun, Gudong explained rapidly. The flagship Tianshu was destroyed by a traitor with a nuclear bomb, and Princess Chi Miao has fallen into the Orc-occupied area in her escape pod. Master Seong was severely injured while protecting the prince in the previous battle. Now I need you. Master Huan Yu's calm eyes suddenly narrowed, a fleeting icy killing intent flashing across. Understood. There is a high-speed B-192 new Earth heavy attack aircraft in the spaceport hangar stealth version. I've cleared the flight path for you. Your mission is to reach the princess before the main force arrives. Protect her until the main force converges. All right. Master Huan Yu uttered a single word, and her figure vanished from the screen. Gudong knew that once this master of the force acted, she could at least buy precious time for Chi Miao. Meanwhile, several light years away from the Qianlong star system, over 100 severely depleted Orc ships were hiding in the shadow of a massive asteroid. On the bridge, Grom Iron Tooth paced back and forth like an injured beast, his face a mix of relief from surviving and humiliation from defeat. General, We've received the latest battle report from the direction of Qianlong Star. An orc communications soldier rushed in tumbling over himself. Speak. Grom grabbed him. The humans. Their flagship Tianshu has exploded. The entire ship is gone. Their princess, the woman named Chi Miao, has fallen into our occupied area. Grom was stunned, and then a sickly frenzied light burst forth in his eyes. The flagship was destroyed. The princess has fallen. This is a divine gift from heaven. The last favor of the war god. He lost the interstellar battle, but if he could capture the princess of the Daqian Empire alive, it would be a tremendous achievement that could make up for all his failures. Everything has turned around. Connect to the Qianlong Star communicator. Report, sir. We are connected. The screen lit up, revealing a weary orc who appeared on screen, facing an epic and humiliating defeat. After several hours of intense bombardment, no one could remain unscathed. You've all worked hard. The human flagship has fallen, and the princess of the Daqian Empire is currently in your occupied area. Grom Irontooth suddenly turned, shouting at the communication screen. Notify all ground force commanders on Qianlong Star. Put down everything you are doing. 500,000 troops, mobilize all of them. Find that woman for me. Capture her alive. Whoever can capture her alive, I will guarantee him the position of a new warlord. Ensure the mission is completed. The orc became excited as well. The communication ended, and the commander on Qianlong Star issued the order. All soldiers, move out quickly. Capture all escapees from the recently fallen ships. Remember, capture alive. For each person captured alive, reward 10000 orc coins. The order was instantly transmitted to the surface of Qianlong Star. In an instant, the orc ground troops who were still licking their wounds seemed to be injected with the wildest stimulant. Countless tanks, armored vehicles, and roaring orc warriors surged out from their positions. They rushed towards the crash site of Tianshu. After issuing the order, Grom Irontooth's madness intensified. He knew that the humans would undoubtedly spare no effort in their rescue. The kid named Gudong would surely concentrate all his forces on the planet. If they wanted to land troops, given their current conditions, it would be very easy. They must obstruct their support. Thus, space is his only opportunity. Currently, the orc combined fleet still has 21 cruisers, 8 battleships, 7 aircraft carriers, and 1 severely damaged Queen Ant-class ship, along with over 40 destroyers and frigates. Moreover, most of these ships are injured. Going out now would basically be a death sentence. Even if I have to risk my life, I must buy 4 hours for the ground troops. All remaining operational ships. Supply power to the reactors. We will go back, Grom said with a bitter smile, revealing his sharp teeth. General, go back. The remaining ships number even less than half of the human fleet. And they are all injured, the aide anxiously advised. Fool, Grom slapped him away. We are not going to win. We are going to cause chaos. To interfere, to delay. As long as we can buy time for the ground troops to capture that woman, it will be worth it, even if we all die. I want to win bargaining chips for the Empire in negotiations. At this moment, due to the quantum long-distance communicator being damaged, he was unaware that peace talks had already begun between the two countries, and the war was over. He had gone mad, knowing that returning to the Orc Empire was a dead end for him. Since that's the case, why not here, using the last value of himself and the wreckage of the fleet, fight for a chance to turn the tables? The remaining orc fleet turned their ships back towards Qianlong Star and launched a desperate charge once more. 1 hour later, on the bridge of the Long Yuan, the piercing alarm rang again. Alarm. Spatial jump reaction detected. It's the remnants of the orc fleet that fled earlier. They are back. General Li and all the officers on the bridge were stunned. This was simply incomprehensible. What were they back for? To die? Only Gudong, upon hearing the alarm, immediately understood Grom's intentions. This orc intends to use his remaining forces to hold back his fleet and create opportunities for ground capture. Good, well played, Grom Irontooth. Gudong smirked coldly, a hint of appreciation for a worthy opponent in his smile, along with a stronger killing intent. You want to play, do you? He'll play with you. All battleships prepare for combat. He turned around, facing the vast star map before him. Representing the Dark Angels, 8,000 soldiers boarded the landing pods, transforming into a dense meteor shower, trailing long tails of flame, rushing towards the Azure planet. 300 kilometers. For ordinary people, traversing such a complex and hostile terrain is almost an insurmountable chasm. However, with this light tank, the journey has become much faster. At a speed of over 50 miles per hour, it would take just 6 hours to reach the destination. But that was only in an ideal scenario. Behind them, the pursuing orc troops were relentless, numbering nearly 2,000. Given the order to capture them alive, they dared not use genuinely high lethality weapons, only light machine guns and some small caliber artillery. This also gave Chi Miao and the others an opportunity, otherwise they would have perished over an hour ago. They watched the dust swirling behind them. Qi Miao took a deep breath and gripped her Gauss pistol tightly. The royal military education she received since childhood came into play at this moment. She quickly identified the direction, her hand reaching out from the turret without a moment's hesitation, focusing on the dark figure behind, and fired. An orc motorcycle soldier fell to the ground with a thud as the light tank's small and agile figure swiftly maneuvered over the rugged terrain, making the most of the landscape's undulations and ruins to conceal itself. Other team members operated the machine guns, sweeping fire towards the crowd behind. The turret locked onto the pursuers and fired. Boom! Behind them, an orc armored vehicle was pierced through. Its armor began to slow down and ultimately exploded. Rumbling. The tremors of the earth drew closer. On the horizon, 7 orc-style Howler's light tanks advanced in a wedge formation. These tanks are renowned for their speed and powerful fire support capabilities, with multi-barrel machine guns on top, randomly spraying fire-shattering rocks and debris along their path. They had obviously locked onto this area. Qi Miao's heart sank. With just this tank facing 7 tanks was akin to striking a stone with an egg. They could only keep fleeing. Accelerate. But after all, this was not a standard tank. The roar of the enemy tank's engines grew closer, and the shells began to explode around the moving tank. Clang! The splattered dirt and debris hit the vehicle. She could clearly hear the excited and boisterous shouts of the orc drivers over the comms. Humans, stop, surrender, and you won't be killed. Just as they were about to be caught and prepared for a last-ditch effort, a sharp, whistling sound pierced through the air from above. 3 air superiority fighters painted with the Empire's cyan eagle insignia screamed by at nearly ground level, the shockwaves from breaking the sound barrier, even lifting a layer of dust from the ground. In the next moment, dozens of small bombs dropped from the belly of the aircraft, falling like petals from a heavenly maiden. Cluster-guided bombs. Qi Miao barely registered a flash of white light before the deafening explosions merged into one. The 7 arrogant Howler tanks were instantly engulfed in flames. The shockwave from the explosions lifted one of the turrets completely off, sending it rolling through the air into the distance. It seemed that temporary reinforcements had arrived. A surge of joy welled up within Qi Miao. She looked up to see the 3 fighters beautifully climbing and circling in the air. Suddenly, the cockpit of one fighter popped open, and a figure leaped down from high above. The figure descended without using any parachute or anti-gravity device, just before landing. A soft blue glow enveloped their body, as if being supported by an invisible hand, landing gracefully on the moving tank. The newcomer, dressed in a gray robe with a tall, upright posture and a cold expression, was none other than the master of Force Huan Yu. He opened the hatch on top of the tank. Huan Yu jumped inside the vehicle. "Your Highness, I apologize for being late and frightening you." Huan Yu slightly bowed, his tone calm, but a hint of concern shone in his eyes. "Master Huan Yu." Qi Miao was so excited she could hardly speak. "It's you. This is great. Commander Gu has dispatched all the Dark Angels for support, and ground troops will be here shortly. We must ensure your safety before they arrive. The planes are circling in the sky and cannot land. Their presence here relies entirely on their stealth capability. The orc anti-air systems are no joke." They began to clear the tightly packed pursuers behind with machine guns and missiles. The pursuers were now held up. Huan Yu glanced around, his gaze sharpening. "We need to accelerate now." General Lin floored. The speed barely reached 65. They were distancing themselves from the orcs. Currently, they had temporarily shaken off the pursuit. Meanwhile, in the cold vacuum of space, a far more brutal battle had already begun. The remnants of the fleet, led by Grom Ironjaw, surged forward like a pack of bloodthirsty mad dogs, recklessly charging towards Gudong's iron wall defense line. Report. The enemy fleet numbers approximately 112 ships, and they have entered our main cannon range. On the bridge of the Long Yuan, the atmosphere was tense to the extreme. These bastards really dare to come back. Ma Sai glared at the dense cluster of red dots on the screen, spitting vehemently. He had just sent down 8,000 of the most elite warriors. They are not here for a decisive battle. They are here to die. General Li Gang pointed out the issue with pinpoint accuracy. Their goal is to delay us, preventing us from providing effective support on the ground. Everyone's gaze focused on Gudong. Gudong narrowed his eyes, his fingers gently tracing the tactical map in the void. If they were to confront them head-on, even if they could win, it would undoubtedly come at a significant cost, and more importantly, it would waste precious time. And time was exactly what Qi Miao needed most at this moment. "Orders!" Gudong's voice rang out, and everyone held their breath. "All Ming-class battleships stop, war-class battleships form a phalanx, and engage head-on." This was simply like taking gold to smash stones. Such a waste. They only needed to consume from a distance. Why engage at close range? "Execute the order." Gudong offered no explanation. They must not let them get close. Qianlong, Star hinder the landing operation. And all cruisers and destroyers centered around the Long Yuan maintain the iron wall formation, covering the landing pods for landing. despite being filled with doubts. The order was executed without question out of trust in Gudong's almost miraculous command ability. 26 brand new Ming-class battleships and 16 stop war-class battleships broke away from the main formation, charging fearlessly towards the Orc fleet along with destroyers and frigates. Grom Ironjaw, seeing this scene from his flagship, tightened his grip and tension. It seemed they could not get any closer. All battleships' cruisers engage Hedon. Frigates and destroyers cover the aircraft carriers. Aircraft carrier groups begin deploying aircraft to thwart the human landing operations. If the pilots can survive and do not need to return to the carrier, they can land directly on the ground. Action begins. Ironjaw issued the combat orders. Gudong stood on the bridge of the Long Yuan, his gaze icy. Before him, the vast holographic star map displayed red dots representing the remnants of the Orc fleet charging towards the human fleet like a pack of rabid dogs heedless of the cost. Grom Ironjaw, that Orc commander, had completely lost his mind. He aimed to use the destruction of his own fleet to buy time for the ground troops to capture the princess alive. What a fool, Gudong thought contemptuously. Do you think I can't see through your intentions, eh? He had anticipated this move long ago. When the princess escape pod fell, the nature of the war had already changed. It was no longer a simple fleet annihilation battle, but a race against time for a rescue operation. Victory in space must serve the rescue on the ground. Order the 1st to 3rd battleship formations to actively engage. Gudong's voice was transmitted clearly through the command system to every battleship's bridge. Stop them at the perimeter of the landing zone. Yes, Commander. General Zhang immediately executed the order. He was a veteran of the fleet, and although he was surprised by Gudong's youth, the previous battle had completely won his trust. This young man was truly a monster born for war. Commander, the 1st to 3rd formations have engaged the enemy. The communication officer reported. On the holographic star map, the blue dots representing the elite human battleships pierced into the chaotic ranks of the Orcs like a sharp trident. In an instant, the universe was once again illuminated. Countless beams of energy crisscrossed in the pitch-black vacuum, tearing through the ship's armor and igniting reactor cores. Every second, battleships transformed into brilliant fireworks. However, the Orcs were already bloodied, and now they were even more vulnerable. The Orc fleet, driven by a desperate resolve, completely abandoned defense and evasion, channeling all energy into their weapon systems as they unleashed a frenzied barrage. Their only goal was to delay time with their own wreckage. Report. Our Daqian-class battleship's shield is overloaded. The ship's hull is damaged by 30%. Report. The right engine of the Hongshan has been destroyed and is losing speed. Requesting assistance. We are being engaged by 3 Orc cruisers. With the Orcs' reckless assault, it was a lie to say there were no losses. Negative reports poured into the command center like snowflakes. Cold sweat trickled down General Li's forehead, his palms slick with sweat. He looked at Gudong and found the young man still expressionless, as if the horrific casualty numbers before him meant nothing. What's the panic? Gudong's voice was not loud, yet it silenced the entire bridge. In war, there are always casualties. He raised his hand and traced a line on the star map. Order the 4th and 5th formations to flank from the left, targeting the enemy fleet's destroyer group at the rear. General Li was taken aback. Commander, doing this will increase the pressure on our central defense. Execute the order. Gudong did not explain. General Li gritted his teeth, ultimately choosing to trust him. Yes. With the new orders given, the formation of the human fleet shifted once again. The 2 fresh forces were like 2 sharp knives, bypassing the meat grinder battlefield at the front and plunging deep into the Orc fleet's relatively weak rear. Grom Ironjaw was roaring on his flagship. Charge. Everyone charge. Even if it means ramming through. His eyes were bloodshot like a gambler who had lost everything. The princess was his only hope for a comeback. As long as he captured her, he could force the humans to surrender and even turn the tide. Commander, the human fleets are attacking our rear guard. Ignore them. Ironjaw shouted crazily. Those destroyers are meant to be sacrificed. Order the main force to advance at full speed. Target the human landing ships. He no longer cared about the losses of the fleet. However, he soon realized he was mistaken. Gudong's attack target was not those insignificant destroyers at all. System, calculate the optimal attack sequence. Calculating. Optimal attack targets locked Bloodclaw Skullbreaker Black Iron cruisers. These 3 ships are the firepower coordination nodes of the enemy's rearguard fleet. Their destruction could disrupt 37% of the enemy's firepower output. Countless data streams flashed through Gudong's eyes. Long Yuan target locked Bloodclaw cruiser. He personally issued the firing command. Fire. The main cannon of the Long Yuan, that large-caliber main gun, emitted a deep rumble. A beam of light brighter than a star crossed the vast distance and accurately struck the frantically firing Bloodclaw. Because the shield system had long been damaged, there was no violent explosion. The Bloodclaw was obliterated in an instant like a pencil sketch erased by an invisible eraser shattered from bow to stern. One strike instant kill. Meanwhile, the 4th and 5th formations also received precise orders sent by Gudong through encrypted channels. Their focus was on the other 2 orc cruisers. After sacrificing several escort ships, they successfully turned Skullbreaker and Blackiron into 2 burning heaps of scrap metal. Commander, the rearguard fleet has lost command. Our firepower net has a gap. The adjutant reported in terror, suddenly turning to look at the star map. He was horrified to find that with the destruction of those 3 cruisers, the firepower output of his entire fleet had reached a lethal standstill. Now, all fleets concentrate fire. Gudong's voice sounded like the pronouncement of death. Target the enemy flagship. All the cannons of the human fleet at that moment seemed to unite in purpose, turning to aim at the largest orc warship. Ironjaw's pupils contracted sharply. He wanted to order a retreat, but it was already too late. Previously to charge, he had ordered all energy to be supplied to weapons and engines, reducing the shield's power to a minimum. The shield system had already suffered considerable damage in that battle. Now this became his most fatal mistake. No, he let out a desperate howl. In the next second, countless beams converged into an irresistible torrent of death, instantly engulfing the last of the Ant Queen class. In the universe, a new sun rose. That blinding light signified the end of an orc commander and the conclusion of this frenzied fleet. On the bridge of the Lungyuan, everyone held their breath, staring dumbfounded at the expanding fireball. Did they win? Did they just win? They had annihilated the orcs' last space forces at the smallest cost. General Li opened his mouth, looking at Gudong with eyes that had shifted from trust to awe. This was no longer commanding, it was divine revelation. Relay my orders. Gudong's voice broke the silence, and he didn't even glance at the exploding fire, as if he had merely accomplished an insignificant task. His gaze turned to the blue planet below. Order all aircraft to immediately conduct orbital air drops and eliminate all anti-air defenses in the landing zone. Order Marquis Ma to force the Dark Angel to land immediately. I don't care what method he uses, my men must set foot on the soil of Qianlong Star within 10 minutes. The war in space is over. Now it's time for the ground. As the flagship, the last of the Queen Ant class, was shattered under a barrage of concentrated fire, the command system of the remaining orc fleet collapsed in an instant. Grom Ironjaw's frenzied will was the sole bond keeping this army together. Now that bond had shattered. The commander is dead. The flagship has been destroyed. We're doomed. Panic spread like a virus through the orc communication channels. What was once a somewhat orderly suicide charge immediately turned into a chaotic rout. Some warships attempted to turn back, but collided with those behind them. Some ships fired indiscriminately, hitting their own allies. Others simply shut down their engines, waiting to die in place. Morale had completely collapsed. Thinking of running, Gudong's lips curled into a cold arc. It's too late to think of running now. General Li. Yes. General Li straightened his body sharply, his voice booming. Order the entire fleet to form an encirclement and fire at will. Gudong's voice was devoid of emotion. I do not want to see a single orc warship able to activate its warp engines. Not a single one left. Understood. Excitement flickered in General Li's eyes. This was the best time to strike down the drowning dog. Relay my orders. General Li turned around and roared at the commanders of the fleet. All forces engaged. Send these greenskin scum straight to hell. For the Empire. Let's do this. The suppressed anger and fighting spirit exploded at this moment. The human fleet surged forward like a pack of sharks that had caught a whiff of blood, pouncing on the panicking orc warships. This was a massacre. A relentless hunt without suspense. The human battleships with their massive main cannons systematically targeted each ship. The cruisers formed a wolf pack, pursuing the fleeing orc escort ships, tearing them apart with concentrated firepower. Even some auxiliary ships joined in this frenzy, using their weak, close-range cannons to vent their presence. In the cosmos, the explosions flared up like a grand festival of fireworks. Each burst of flame represented the death of an orc warship. Commander, the enemy has disintegrated into chaos. We estimate we can annihilate them within 15 minutes. The communication officer's report trembled slightly, tinged with excitement. Gudong nodded, remaining silent. His attention had completely shifted to the ground battlefield. In the center of the holographic star map, the surface combat situation of the Qianlong Star was magnified to the extreme. Dense clusters of red dots represented over 500,000 orc ground troops. In the center of these red dots, a flashing green that indicated Princess Qi Miao's location. Surrounding the princess, there were a few faint blue dots. These represented Master Huan Yu and other officers who had escaped alongside her. Marquis Ma, what is the situation? Gudong connected to the communication of the commander of the Dark Angel. Wang Wei, a Marquis of the Empire, was also the supreme commander of the 8,000 Dark Angel space warriors. However, since the original team leader Wang Wei was currently unaccounted for, Ma Datsai was temporarily in charge. Ma Datsai had previously served as a regular soldier in the team. Thus, he was still capable of handling this job. On the screen, a somewhat terrified face appeared. His black power armor was smeared with blood and dust, the background filled with the deafening sounds of explosions. Our unit has successfully airdropped. We are advancing towards the target point. Ma Dekai's voice resonated like a great bell. But the orc resistance is extremely fierce. They are madly using lives to fill their defenses. With every step we take, we have to pay a price. Gudong stared at the combat situation map. The sharp arrow representing the Dark Angel was steadfastly advancing towards the prince's position. Yet around them, countless red dots surged from all directions, attempting to encircle and overwhelm them. What is the casualty rate? 17%. And it's still rising. Ma Dekai's teeth chattered. These damned greenskins are much tougher on the ground than in space. I don't care what methods you use, whether you fill the gaps with lives or smash through with equipment. Gudong's voice turned icy. Within 2 hours, if I do not see you beside the princess, you can sever your own head and deliver it to me. The judgments of the team leader and the temporary team leader could only be decided by the current emperor. But Ma Dekai's body trembled, then he shouted loudly, I guarantee the mission will be completed. The communication was cut off. Gudong knew his words were harsh, but he had no other choice. The prince's safety was tied to the stability of the entire empire. Now it was even more crucial for negotiations. Any cost was worth it. Just then, an encrypted communication request came in. Commander, it's an urgent communication from the ground reconnaissance unit. Put it through. A young soldier's face appeared on the screen, bloodied and panting, the background a scene of burning ruins. Report, Commander. We have discovered a target. The soldier's voice was filled with excitement and uncertainty. We found a living human noble near a downed escape pod. Gudong's brow furrowed. Noble? In a place like this? He claims to be Duke Arthur Windsor. Boom. This name detonated in the bridge of the Long Yuan like a bomb. General Li and the other officers displayed expressions of shock. Arthur Windsor, the coward who fled at a critical moment, causing the entire fleet's flank to be exposed. He was still alive, and the ground forces found him. Gudong's gaze instantly turned extremely icy. He recalled that guy's despicable actions, remembering the thousands of soldiers who perished because of his escape. A surge of rage rose from the depths of his heart. Where is he now? Gudong's voice revealed no hint of joy or anger. He has been captured, Commander. He is unharmed, just looks frightened. The soldier reported. Keep a close watch on him. Gudong finished speaking, preparing to cut off communication. He had no time to deal with this garbage right now. Wait, Commander. The soldier suddenly shouted loudly. He also said something very important. He said, he knows where the princess is. He said he saw the direction in which the princess escape pod fell, and also said that the princess and the others snatched a light tank from the orcs. Gudong's pupils constricted sharply. Everyone in the bridge held their breath. This coward, this traitor, he actually knew the princess' location. In an instant, a terrifying thought flashed through Gudong's mind. Immediately interrogate him. Clarify whether he has reported this information to anyone else. Gudong nearly shouted, but it was too late. Almost at the same time, the battlefield map on the planet's surface underwent a shocking change. The orc troops, originally scattered and engaged in battle with the 300,000 human ground forces, seemed to have received a unified command. They abandoned their positions, forsook their opponents, and began to gather frantically in one direction. That direction was precisely the coordinates where Princess Chi Miao was located. My heavens! General Li exclaimed in shock, his face pale. They know the princess' location. How did they find out? On the bridge, a deadly silence fell. Everyone understood what this signified. The orcs abandoned the war in its entirety, betting everything on capturing the princess alive. They would stop at nothing to seize Chi Miao. As for the source of this deadly intelligence, all eyes focused on the direction behind the young soldier on the screen. There, escorted by several soldiers, was the pale-faced, trembling Arthur Windsor. Gudong's fist clenched, turning his knuckles white. He stared intently at the green beacon surrounded by countless red dots on the star map. He knew that the true crisis was only just beginning. Time seemed to flow back several hours. A escape pod hung crookedly on a giant broken tree, its door deformed from the impact, emitting black smoke. Arthur Windsor crawled out in a tumble, falling to the ground covered in mud. He coughed violently, his face as pale as a sheet of paper. I survived. I actually survived. He glanced around. Everywhere were burning trees and craters, the air thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder. He activated his escape pod at the moment the flagship Tianshu exploded. As a member of a foreign royal family, his escape pod's speed and stealth far surpassed military standards. It was precisely because of this that he narrowly escaped the shockwave of the explosion and subsequent fleet crossfire. However, the place where he landed seemed a bit off. This is the orc occupation zone. The thought of those bloodthirsty green-skinned monsters made Arthur's legs go weak. He had to leave here immediately. He struggled to stand up just as he was about to orient himself. A rough laughter and footsteps suddenly echoed nearby. Arthur's heart leapt into his throat. He wanted to hide, but it was already too late. A patrol of 5 orc soldiers armed with explosive guns emerged from the woods. They spotted the crashed escape pod and saw Arthur. "Oh, look what we found." The leading orc captain grinned widely, revealing a cruel smile full of sharp teeth. "A tender human. Looks like a noble, just look at the clothes he's wearing." Another orc whistled, eyeing Arthur greedily from head to toe. Arthur was so scared that he collapsed to the ground. Don't kill me. I have money. I can give you money," he pleaded incoherently. "Money?" The orc captain burst into laughter as if he had heard the funniest joke. "What do we need your money for? We just want your head." He raised the explosive gun, aiming at Arthur's head. The fear of death instantly seized all of Arthur's senses. He felt a warmth in his pants as a stream of warmth uncontrollably flowed out. "No, wait." Driven by his instinct for survival, he let out a desperate scream. "I am a duke. I am Duke Arthur Windsor of the Great Qian Empire. If you kill me, you will get into big trouble." He tried to intimidate the savage orcs with his status. However, the orc captain paused for a moment, then laughed even louder. "A duke? Huh, that's even better. A duke's head must be worth a considerable bounty." The shadow of death loomed over Arthur once more. His mind went blank, all thoughts swirling into a mush. At that moment, one idea flashed through his mind like lightning. He remembered a glimpse he caught out of the corner of his eye while escaping the Tianshu. It was the Empire's Princess Qi Miao's exclusive escape pod, also caught in the explosion, falling in another direction. "I know a bigger secret," Arthur shouted with all his might. "A secret more valuable than my life. The princess. Your enemy, the princess of the Great Qian Empire, Qi Miao," he said excitedly. "I also saw her escape pod. I know where she fell. She is nearby. She even stole one of your tanks. I know which one." To save his life, he unhesitatingly sold out his last value. The orc captain's eyes lit up. The princess of the Great Qian Empire. Even though he was just a squad leader, he knew what that meant. This was a tremendous achievement. He grabbed Arthur by the collar and lifted him off the ground. "Are you telling the truth? If you dare lie to me, I will skin you alive." "Really? Absolutely true." Arthur nodded vigorously. "I saw it with my own eyes. I can take you there, as long as you don't kill me." The orc captain and his subordinates exchanged glances, seeing the thrill and greed in each other's eyes. He immediately reported this astonishing news to his direct commander through his communicator. The message quickly passed up layer by layer. Soon this intelligence reached the highest command of the orc ground forces. The orc generals, who were struggling with how to deal with the human army of 300,000, were all stunned the moment they received this news. Then the whole command center erupted. The princess, the weak point of that human commander who made them suffer a crushing defeat in space. As long as we capture her, there is hope for turning this war around. Order. All troops, immediately stop entangling with the enemy in front. Abandon all positions. The entire army turn. Target coordinates XXX. At all costs, capture the human princess alive. The first batch of troops to arrive will be rewarded with a fortune. The commander will be promoted 3 ranks. Under heavy rewards, there will surely be brave men. Moreover, this was an order capable of turning the tide of the battle. In an instant, the 50,000 orc army on the surface of the Qianlong Star moved. They surged towards a single point, like a pack of wolves smelling blood from all directions. On the bridge of the Long Yuan ship, a dead silence reigned. Everyone was stunned into silence by the changes in the battle situation before them. The dense red dots converged towards that lonely green beacon like a tide, forming a massive and terrifying encirclement. "Bastard." General Li slammed his fist on the control panel, his eyes reddening. "That traitor. That coward. He sold the princess. How dare he? How dare he do this?" The other officers wore expressions of anger and disbelief. Betraying the empire and selling out compatriots is an unforgivable capital crime in the military. Moreover, what he sold out was the empire's princess. "Immediately send someone to capture that scum. I want to personally execute him." A young staff officer shouted angrily. "The situation has already slipped from our grasp," and in his voice echoed through the silent bridge. The orcs' objective is unambiguous: to concentrate all their forces and seize Princess Qi Miao before our main army arrives. And we can no longer advance according to the original methodical plan. He lifted his head, his gaze sweeping across every officer present. "And in issue my orders," and in his voice carried an ironclad resolve, brooking no dissent. "Command Marquis Ma, the Dark Angels are to abandon their phased assault and launch an all-out frontal charge. transforming themselves into a razor-sharp blade, slashing open a breach in the orcs' encirclement. Command the Ground High Command to divide its 300,000-strong force into 3 prongs, deploying them in a triangular formation to launch a saturation-style assault toward the Princess's coordinates. Command all carrier-based air units to cease ground support operations immediately and converge over the Princess's position, delivering indiscriminate firepower upon the Orcish pursuit forces behind her. Clear the path for the ground assault. And inform all units ammunition is unlimited. I authorize them to engage any mobile target, except the Princess's tank. General Lee drew a sharp breath. And in this was a mutual annihilation strategy. And an indiscriminate bombardment would decimate Orcish ranks, but would inevitably strike our own advancing troops as well. It was trading lives for time. And in Marshal Gu, such tactics will incur catastrophic casualties. And in general, Lee could not suppress his plea. Carry out the order. And in Gudong's voice held no tremor, no inflection. And in, tell every soldier those who fall in this battle shall receive tenfold compensation. Their family shall be sustained by the Empire for 3 generations. And in any soldier who slays an Orcish officer of colonel rank or higher shall be promoted 1 grade and awarded 1,000 mu of fertile land. The first to reach the Princess's side shall be ennobled as a baron. He had set a price so staggering it would ignite frenzy in every heart. General Lee fell silent. And in he knew Gudong's decision was irrevocable. And in this was a gamble, staked on the lives of tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands, for a single chance to save the princess. Yes, sir. And in General Lee snapped upright, his eyes blazing with the fire of fatal resolve. And in, I shall deliver these orders myself. With each command dispatched, the vast war machine of the human expeditionary force surged forward, not with precision, but with feverish, desperate momentum. Thus began an unprecedented blood-soaked rescue operation centered upon Princess Chi Miao, and in and at the storm's very eye, inside that battered, near-disintegrating light tank. Chi Miao and Master Huan Yu remained unaware that they had become the fulcrum upon which the entire war's outcome now balanced. And in they only knew one thing: the pursuers were multiplying, relentlessly. So many that despair itself seemed to rise like smoke from the earth. And in, boom, and in an Orcish rocket screamed past the tank's flank and detonated nearby, hurling dust and debris skyward. The violent shockwave sent everyone inside reeling. And in, steady, hold your positions. And in the lead escort, sweat streaming down his temples, gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity. Beyond the tank's observation port lay a vision of hell. And in, orcs swarmed across hills and valleys, roaring as they charged. Some piloted crude armored vehicles, others rode monstrous mutated beasts, most advanced on foot, black waves surging inward from every horizon. Above, primitive Orcish attack craft shrieked overhead, dropping salvos of bombs that gouged craters deep into the earth. Their numbers have increased at least tenfold, and in the gunner's voice trembled. And in, we're surrounded. Completely surrounded. And in, Chi Miao clenched her plasma rifle, her palms slick with sweat. And in, through the viewport she stared at the endless tide of enemies, and felt her heart sink heavier than lead. Why? Why have so many appeared all at once? And she could not comprehend it. And in, they had evaded the bulk of their pursuers. So how had the orcs materialized like phantoms, sealing their fate with such suffocating speed? Master Huan Yu sat cross-legged in the tank's corner, eyes half-closed, expression grave. And in, as a force master, she sensed with crystalline clarity the dense, suffocating miasma of malice and slaughter saturating the surrounding space. That malice converged, unerringly, upon this tank, and in upon the princess within it. And in, they are not hunting us. Master Huan Yu opened her eyes slowly. And in, they hunt only you, your highness. And in, Chi Miao froze. Me? And in, yes. And in, Master Huan Yu's gaze sharpened, piercing as a blade. And in, our location has been compromised. And whoever leaked our position knew your identity. Precisely why they've mobilized every unit, sparing no cost, to annihilate us. Their aim is to capture you, alive. And in, Chi Miao's face drained of color. And in, she understood now. And in, she had become the enemy's prime objective. She had become the battlefield's greatest liability. And in, a wave of crushing guilt and helplessness rose within her. And had it not been for her, the fleet would never have been forced into such a perilous stance. If only she were stronger, she would not be fleeing now, broken and defenseless. And I'm sorry, all of this is my fault. And her voice cracked with suppressed tears. Your Highness, this is no moment for remorse. Master Huan Yu said, her tone low and unwavering. And in, you must survive. Your life is the Empire's hope. So long as you live, we have not lost. And in, her words struck like a lifeline, firm, urgent, vital. And in, yes, surrender was not an option. Marshal Gudong still commanded the fleet from orbit. 300,000 ground troops fought with bleeding valor. Marquis Ma's dark angels raced toward them even now. Every soul fought, for her, and she had no right to drown in self-reproach. I understand, Master. And she Meow wiped her tears, her eyes hardening with renewed steel. And I will fight until my last breath. And boom. Another deafening explosion. And this time the tank took a direct hit, flung sideways by sheer force, crashing onto its hull with bone-jarring finality. Sparks erupted within the hull, alarms wailed in frantic chorus. And engine's dead, and the driver cried out in utter desolation. We're immobilized, and it was over. And that single thought flashed through every mind trapped in an immovable iron coffin ringed by an endless sea of orcs. There remained only one possible end. Prepare to fight. And the escort captain smashed open the warped hatch and clambered out first. And the remaining guards followed, swiftly forming a tight defensive cordon around the overturned tank. Chi Miao emerged next, rifle in hand, shielded by Master Huanyu. And when she beheld the outside world, she gasped, a cold, ragged intake of breath. Everywhere she looked, only orcs. They had formed an impenetrable encirclement, a sea of darkness with no end in sight. The orcs at the front were less than 100 meters away from them. Their ferocious smiles and greedy gazes were clearly visible. For the Empire, General Lin roared, firing the first shot. For Her Highness the Princess. The other guards roared in unison, unleashing a torrent of bullets from their weapons. But their resistance was like insignificant ripples in front of the vast tide of orcs instantly submerged. The orcs let out earth-shattering roars, brandishing various weapons as they charged forward. Their numbers had already exceeded 10,000, and they kept increasing. Master Huanyu. Chi Miao's lips turned pale. Don't be afraid, Your Highness. Master Huanyu shielded her behind, the humming sound of the lightsaber in her hand resonating. As long as I am here, they won't get within a step of you. Her eyes were calm as water, as if the more than 10,000 vicious enemies before her were merely a group of insignificant creatures. But Chi Miao knew that even a Master of Origin had limits to their power. How long could Master Huanyu hold out against such a number of enemies? The first wave of orc berserkers was already charging right at them. They raised their battle axes and chainsaw swords high, with bloodthirsty laughter bringing them down. Some didn't even have time to scream before being engulfed in the tide. In this critical moment, Master Huanyu moved. Her figure seemed to transform into a streak of flowing light, an elusive phantom. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. With a series of sounds of blades piercing flesh, the leading dozens of orcs suddenly froze. In the next second, their heads flew up into the sky simultaneously. Their scorching blood sprayed like a fountain, staining the earth red. Master Huanyu's figure reappeared before Chi Miao. Her long sword angled, her white robes as pristine as snow untainted by dust. Alone with a sword, she had carved out a vacuum in the tide of orcs. The orc charge came to a halt. They were intimidated by the terrifying power displayed by this human woman. But this intimidation lasted less than 3 seconds. Kill her. She's alone. Capture the princess. Offer a reward of 10,000 gold. Under the urging of the orc officer at the rear and the temptation of the reward, an even more furious wave of orcs surged forward, stepping over the bodies of their comrades. This time they had learned to be clever. The ranged shooters began to lay down fire suppression with explosive guns. The melee orcs launched a more concentrated assault from all directions. Master Huanyu frowned slightly. She could easily slay the enemies before her, but she couldn't block attacks coming from all directions at once. More importantly, she had to protect the princess behind her. A stray bullet grazed her arm, causing a spray of blood. Master Huanyu grunted softly, yet her sword momentum did not diminish. She swiftly countered with a strike, slaying 3 orcs attempting to sneak attack her. But she knew she was injured. In such intense combat, even a minor injury could be fatal. She felt her origin power rapidly depleting. How much longer could she last? 10 minutes? Or 5? Chi Miao looked at Master Huanyu's pale face and the wound on her arm, her heart aching like a knife. She could no longer hide behind. She raised her energy rifle, aimed at an orc, and pulled the trigger. A red beam shot out, accurately hitting the orc's head. The orc fell without making a sound. I can fight too. Chi Miao shouted loudly, rallying herself and encouraging Master Huanyu. But her power was utterly insignificant on the battlefield. More orcs had already breached Master Huanyu's sword barrier and were charging toward her. Joy filled their faces as they pounced on their prey. It was over. A glimmer of despair flashed in Chi Miao's eyes. At that moment, a piercing whistle echoed from the horizon. Everyone instinctively looked up. They saw dozens of small black dots glinting with metallic sheen plummeting from the clouds at an astonishing speed. Those were our warplanes. Chi Miao exclaimed in astonishment. Those black dots were the Empire's thunder attack aircraft. They have arrived. They finally came. Open fire. Free fire. Gudong's voice boomed in the ears of all the pilots. Target all living orcs around the prince's coordinates. Repeat, all living orcs. Receiving the order, the pilots did not hesitate. They pressed the launch buttons. In the next second, it was as if the sky unleashed a storm of steel. Hundreds of thousands of missiles and rockets, leaving long trails of flames, surged down like an angry swarm of bees raining down on the dense mass of orc troops. Boom, 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 boom. The earth trembled. The sky turned red. Devastating explosions merged into a sea of fire, instantly engulfing the thousands of orcs at the forefront. Those orcs who had just charged forward with fierce faces and howls didn't even have time to scream before being blown to bits, scattering flesh and parts across the sky. The shockwave enveloped in flames, and shrapnel spread wildly in all directions. The entire world seemed to consist only of the deafening sound of explosions. Chi Miao was tightly shielded under Master Huanyue, using her origin power shield to block the flying shrapnel and scorching waves. Through the gaps in the shield, she stared blankly at the apocalyptic scene before her mind blank. Was this Gudong's way of rescue? So simple and brutal. So reckless. The orc encirclement was blown apart by this first round of saturation airstrike, creating a massive breach. But the orcs did not scatter. Under the pressure of the rear command team and their desire for the princess, they launched another charge after a brief moment of chaos. Continue the attack. Don't stop. Gudong's command was cold and ruthless. The second, third, and fourth rounds of airstrikes followed in quick succession. The thunder attack aircraft in the sky circled like tireless grim reapers, unleashing deadly ammunition wave after wave onto the ground. The battlefield had completely turned into a meat grinder. Every second, hundreds of thousands of lives were extinguished. The orcs were filling the path to the princess with their lives. And humans were using ammunition to wear down the orcs' lives. This was a contest of will and resources. Commander Gu, ammunition consumption has exceeded 30%. At this rate, our carrier aircraft will soon run out of ammunition. General Li trembled as he looked at the rapidly declining stock data. Charge. These are all expensive precision-guided weapons, yet now they are being discarded like worthless stones. Let the transport ships supply the front line. He knew that every second the airstrike continued would relieve the pressure on the ground troops and secure the prince's safety. At that moment on the battlefield map, the sharp arrow representing the Dark Angels finally crashed fiercely into the outer perimeter of the orc encirclement. Kill. Marquis Ma charged ahead, wielding his powered war hammer, each swing capable of smashing an entire squad of orcs into meat paste. The 4,000 Dark Angels behind him resembled 8,000 death gods emerging from hell, clad in heavy black powered armor, their explosive guns spewing flames of death. Their formation was like a searing dagger effortlessly slicing through the orcs' fragile defenses. The weapons of ordinary orc soldiers merely sparked harmlessly against their powered armor. Each bullet from their explosive guns could blow an orc into pieces. This was a one-sided massacre caused by a technological gap. Dark Angels truly were the Empire's most elite star warriors. Their appearance injected a powerful adrenaline into the hearts of all the human soldiers who were fighting desperately. It's the Dark Angels. Reinforcements have arrived. Brothers, charge. For the princess. Inspired by them, the human ground troops in the other two directions also erupted with astonishing fighting power. With bloodshot eyes, they brandished their guns, following the Dark Angels as they launched a desperate charge against the orc defenses. The three armies formed an unstoppable torrent of steel, fiercely squeezing the orcs' living space from three directions. The orc commander also noticed that the situation was not good. He did not expect the humans' reaction to be so swift and their offensive so fierce. Hold the line. Hold the line for me. He roared hoarsely. Send all the reserves up there. No matter what, we must stop them. Just give me 10 more minutes. No, 5 minutes. I can capture the princess. He pinned his last hope on the elite squad besieging the princess. If he captured the princess, he could immediately turn the tide of battle. However, would Gudong give him this chance? Order all battleships to charge the main cannons. Gudong's voice left everyone on the bridge in shock. Commander, what are you planning to do? General Li couldn't believe his ears. The main cannons of the battleships were weapons designed for interstellar warfare, to use them against ground targets. It was simply like using a dragon-slaying sword to kill a chicken. The power was enough to wipe a city off the map. Commander Gu, the princess is still down there. What if? There is no what if. Gudong interrupted him. His finger traced 3 areas on the battlefield map. These 3 areas were the most densely populated with orc forces and the most stubbornly defended positions. At the same time, they perfectly avoided the core area where the princess was located, as well as the charge routes of the 3 armies. Lock onto these 3 coordinates. Gudong's voice brooked no argument. Perform a warning shot. General Li looked at the 3 marked coordinates, then at Gudong's deep-set eyes. He suddenly understood. Gudong's warning was not for the orcs. He intended to use this thunderous strike to utterly crush the orcs' will to resist. I understand. General Li no longer hesitated and immediately relayed the orders. In space, over a dozen battleships slightly adjusted their positions. Their fearsome main cannon barrels were aimed at the blue planet below. Energy gathered at the cannon mouths, emitting a chilling hum. In the next second, over a dozen beams of light brighter than the sun descended, striking the earth like the whip of divine punishment. There was no sound, or rather the sound had been swallowed by the light. In the 3 areas struck by the beams, everything was vaporized in an instant. Whether it was orcs, war machines, or the earth itself. When the light dissipated, 3 bottomless pits with smooth mirror-like edges were all that remained. Thousands of orcs turned to ash in this earth-shattering strike. The entire battlefield fell into a dead silence. All humans and orcs engaged in battle halted their actions, staring blankly at the 3 massive pits and the wisps of smoke rising from them. Fear, an indescribable fear rooted deep in their souls, seized the hearts of every orc. Their will, their courage, their madness were completely crushed before this miraculous strike. Surrender or die. Gudong's voice echoed across the battlefield through the full-power broadcast. I give you 10 seconds to choose. 10, 9. The cold countdown felt like the Grim Reaper's death decree. Finally, the first orc dropped his weapon and knelt on the ground. Then came the second, the third. Like the first domino falling, the tide of surrender began to spread. In the eye of the storm at the center of the battlefield, Master Huan Yu's force shield trembled violently amidst the shock waves of the orbital cannon fire, seemingly on the verge of shattering. Her complexion had turned as pale as paper, with a trickle of blood at the corner of her mouth. Just now, to protect the princess, she had withstood most of the impact, nearly exhausting her force, and her internal organs were also shaken. Master, are you okay? Chi Miao anxiously supported her, his voice filled with concern. I'm fine. Master Huan Yu shook her head, took a deep breath, and forcefully suppressed the surging blood. Just a bit drained. Her gaze crossed over Chi Miao's shoulder, looking outside. That earth-shattering strike not only intimidated the orcs, but also shocked her. Is this the power of modern warfare? Is this the work of that young man named Gudong? In the face of such power, individual combat strength, even that of a force master, seems so small and powerless. The force she had cultivated for decades, her proud swordsmanship, felt like a joke before this divine retribution descending from the heavens. An unprecedented sense of powerlessness surged within her heart. Indeed, under absolute power, even force becomes too insignificant. They seem to have stopped moving. Chi Miao also noticed the unusual situation outside. The orcs who had originally besieged them like rabid dogs now stood still in place, as if under a freezing spell, gazing up at the sky in terror. Their faces were devoid of the previous ferocity and greed, replaced solely by pure fear. Immediately after, Gudong's cold voice like a divine decree resonated through the heavens and the earth. 3, 2, 1. As the last number fell, a crisp metallic sound echoed on the silent battlefield, sounding particularly jarring. It was the closest orc warlord to them, and his massive battle axe slipped from his trembling hand and clattered to the ground. With a thud, he knelt on the ground, clutching his head, his body shaking like a sieve. His collapse became the last straw that broke the camel's back. Clang, crash. The sounds of weapons being discarded echoed one after another. Thousands of orcs surrendered, abandoning their resistance. They knelt on the ground, burying their heads in the mud, awaiting the judgment of the victors. The encirclement was simply lifted. Chi Miao found it hard to believe her eyes. Just a second ago, they were struggling on the brink of life and death. At any moment, they could be torn to pieces by the orcs. In the next second, these vicious enemies had all turned into docile sheep. This dramatic shift felt somewhat unreal to her. We won. We really won. She murmured to herself, her taut nerves finally loosening as she sank down onto the ground. Tears flowed uncontrollably. They were tears of joy and also tears of lingering fear. Master Huan Yu watched this scene with a complex expression. She knew that this was not her victory, nor was it the victory of the ground troops. It was the victory of the man sitting high above the clouds, wielding the power of the fleet. He ended this battle in the most direct, domineering, and effective manner. Your Highness, we are safe now. She sheathed her lightsaber and helped Chi Miao up. At that moment, a heavy sound of footsteps approached. A squad of giants clad in black power armor appeared before them. At the forefront was Marquis Moditsai. He removed his helmet, revealing a scarred, yet resolute face, kneeling on one knee. I, Moditsai, have arrived late to your rescue. Please punish me, Your Highness. The dark angels behind him also knelt on one knee in unison, their movements precise and full of a killing intent. Marquis, please rise quickly. Chi Miao hurried forward to help him up. If you hadn't arrived in time, we might have. Marquis Ma stood up, glancing at the orcs kneeling in surrender around them, then looking at the 3 massive glass pits, a flicker of awe passing through his eyes. I do not dare to claim credit. All of this is due to Commander Gus' leadership. He spoke in a deep voice. If it weren't for Commander Gus' decisive order for orbital bombardment, we might have incurred tens of thousands of casualties just to get here. Commander Gu. This title stunned both Chi Miao and Master Huan Yu. In the Empire, only marshals with outstanding military achievements commanding a military region have the right to be called commander. Gudong, he was merely an acting commander appointed in a crisis, yet Marquis Ma actually referred to him with this title. This represented heartfelt recognition and respect. It was he who saved us all. Chi Miao said softly, the image of Gudong's young and stern face surfacing in her mind. This man always managed to create miracles in the most desperate moments. Your Highness, we should not linger here. Marquis Ma said, please board our shuttle immediately and return to the flagship. We will handle the cleanup of the ground battlefield. All right. Chi Miao nodded. She just wanted to leave this terrifying place as soon as possible and return to safety. However, just as the shuttle landed and the hatch opened, a sudden change occurred. An orc kneeling on the ground who appeared to have completely given up resisting suddenly flashed a strange green light in his eyes. He suddenly pulled out a staff made of skulls from his bosom, chanting incantations. An evil and chaotic energy instantly enveloped the entire area. It seemed he was also similar to Wan Yin Tian, a force transformer. He was originally a level 3 force master, and now using a potion similar to what Spade had used on the Tianshu, he was likely already a level 1 force master. Lost. He refused to accept it. Not good. It's an orc force master. Master Huan Yu's expression changed dramatically as she instinctively shielded Chi Miao behind her. Everyone get down. Almost simultaneously, the recently surrendered orcs also exhibited the same green light in their eyes. Their expressions twisted and went mad as they let out inhuman howls, picking up the weapons on the ground and launching a suicidal assault on the nearest human soldiers. Damn, they have been controlled. Marquis Ma shouted angrily, putting his helmet back on and raising his power hammer. Protect the princess. The Dark Angels reacted quickly, immediately forming a defensive formation to shield the shuttle and the princess in the center. But the number of orcs was simply too overwhelming. They surged forward like a horde of fearless zombies, completely disregarding human firepower, using their flesh and blood to crash against the Dark Angel's defense. Thud. One Dark Angel was brought down by several orcs and was instantly torn to pieces by sharp claws. A gap appeared in the defense. More orcs surged toward that gap, aiming straight for the princess. Your Highness, hurry onto the plane. Master Huan Yu shouted anxiously as she sliced an orc that lunged at her in half with a single strike. But it was too late. A towering orc warlord had already breached the last line of defense, roaring as he charged in front of Chi Miao. His chainsaw sword roared with a piercing sound as it swung down. Chi Miao's pupils suddenly contracted. The shadow of death loomed over her once more. She could even smell the putrid breath that emanated from him. She shut her eyes, waiting for death to arrive. Yet the anticipated pain did not come. A dull gunshot rang in her ear. She opened her eyes to see the massive head of the orc warlord explode like a watermelon, splattering her with red and white. The headless corpse collapsed to the ground. A figure appeared in front of her, shielding her from harm. It was a young man dressed in ordinary combat gear. In his hand was a still-smoking handgun. It was Gudong. He had actually come down personally. How could Gudong be here? Everyone was dumbfounded, including Chi Miao and Master Huan Yu. Wasn't he supposed to be commanding the entire fleet from the flagship thousands of meters above? How could he appear alone in the center of this most dangerous battlefield? What are you dazed about? Gudong's voice rang out coldly without turning his head. Eliminate these trash. His words seemed to carry a kind of magic, instantly awakening the shocked Dark Angels. Yes, Commander Gu. Marquis Ma shouted angrily, leading the charge. The backbone has arrived. The deity in their hearts has come. What is there to be afraid of? Kill. The Dark Angels erupted with unprecedented battle intent, like a black torrent of steel actively confronting the beastmen controlled by chaotic magic. Gudong did not participate in the fighting. He merely stood quietly, his handgun like the Grim Reaper's scythe, continuously harvesting lives. With each gunshot, a beastman attempting to approach the princess was precisely shot in the head. His marksmanship was fast, accurate, and ruthless, devoid of any unnecessary movements, filled with a mechanical beauty. Under his precise strikes, no beastman could get within 20 meters of the princess. Master Huan Yu looked at Gudong's back, her eyes filled with extreme complexity. She could feel that Gudong did not have any fluctuation of primal energy. The primal energy was concealed by Gudong at this moment. He now looked like an ordinary person. Yet Gudong brought her a pressure greater than facing the warlord of the beastmen. That chilling and decisive aura that radiated from him made her heart palpitate. What had this man done to possess such a terrifying presence? Chi Miao, are you okay? Gudong finally turned around and glanced at Chi Miao, who was covered in blood. There was no concern, no pity in his eyes, only the indifference of official duty. I am fine, Chi Miao instinctively replied, unable to meet his gaze directly. That's good. Gudong nodded, and then issued a new command through the communicator. Long Yuan, lock onto the area with the densest concentration of beastmen. Prepare for an orbital strike. Execute the order. Gudong's tone was unquestionable. Yes, Commander Gu. The purification protocol will initiate in 30 seconds. Communication was cut off. Everyone retreat. Immediately board the shuttle. Gudong shouted at the still fighting Dark Angels. Although Marquis Ma and the others did not know what was happening due to their absolute trust in Gudong, they immediately executed the command, providing cover as they swiftly retreated to the shuttle. You, and you, hurry up. Gudong grabbed Chi Miao and glanced at Master Huanyue, pushing them into the cabin. What about you? Chi Miao asked anxiously. Gudong did not answer her, but instead closed the cabin door with a swift motion. Take off. Immediately. Full speed. He commanded the pilot. The shuttle's engines roared as it swiftly ascended. Chi Miao pressed her forehead against the window, watching the lone figure on the ground, her heart tightening. What is he planning to do? Is he going to perish along with those infected beastmen? Only Gudong remained on the ground, and thousands of roaring beastmen controlled by primal energy surged toward him. He stood amidst a sea of corpses, expressionless. He lifted his head to gaze at the sky. An invisible but destructive energy was rapidly converging. 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. The beastmen had already rushed in front of him. He could even see the crazed green light in their eyes. Goodbye, trash. Gudong said softly, just as the claws of the first beastman were about to touch him. His figure suddenly vanished from the spot. Coordinate shift activate. In the next second, his figure reappeared on a deserted hill a kilometer away. At the very moment he vanished, dozens of massive white light beams filled with an aura of destruction descended from the sky, precisely enveloping the area where he had just stood. There was no sound, no explosion. Only a pure white light capable of burning the retina. When the white light dissipated, that area, along with the tens of thousands of beastmen within it, had disappeared. Not even a speck of dust was left. Only a huge circular void, still emitting wisps of green smoke, remained on the ground. Clean, thorough. On the shuttle, everyone who witnessed this scene gasped in shock. Once again, they were deeply shaken by Gudong's ruthlessness and decisiveness. To eliminate the contamination, he was even willing to use his own life as bait. What kind of monster is this man? Chi Miao stared blankly at the purified area, then glanced at the tiny figure on the distant hill. Her heart was filled with mixed emotions. There was gratitude, reverence, and a hint of an indescribable strange sentiment. Let's return, she softly told the pilot. The war has finally come to an end, and she and the Empire owe this man far too much. Upon returning to the bridge of the Longyuan, Gudong was welcomed like a hero. All the officers spontaneously saluted him. Their eyes were filled with fervent admiration. Gudong merely nodded lightly and walked straight to the commander's seat. Battle damage report. His first words were still about official business. General Li immediately stepped forward and handed over a report. Report, Commander Gu. In this battle, our fleet sustained light damage to 12 ships and heavy damage to 3, losing only 1 battleship. The ground forces suffered approximately 35,000 casualties. As he mentioned the casualties of the ground forces, General Li's voice grew somber. 35,000 people. This was a staggering number. Most of them had died in the final reckless, all-out charge. The atmosphere in the bridge also grew somewhat heavy. Have the names of the fallen soldiers been compiled? Gudong asked. It has been completed. As I previously stated, tenfold compensation. Not a single one can be left out. Gudong's voice was unyielding. Their families are the families of the Empire. Inform the logistics department to treat them with the highest standards. Yes. General Li nodded heavily, his eyes slightly reddened. What about the beastmen? Approximately 450,000 were captured, the rest have been cleared out. General Li said. Very good. Gudong's gaze fell on the holographic star map. The Qianlong star, once occupied by the beastmen, had now been reflagged by the Empire. Main mission: liberate Qianlong star has been completed. Mission evaluation: perfect victory, rewards being calculated. Points gained 1,500. Special lottery opportunity gained 1 time. Title: acquired liberator of Qianlong star. The system's notification echoed in Gudong's mind. 1,500 points. This was an unprecedented fortune. Yet there was no joy on Gudong's face. He knew that this victory was merely a beginning. The true enemy, the third party that had been hiding in the shadows and instigating all of this, had yet to reveal itself. Bring that coward up here. Gudong's voice was as cold as the Siberian chill. It is time to judge him. Inside the temporary interrogation chamber aboard the Longyan, the air hung thick and suffocating, as if moisture itself were condensing into dread. Arthur Windsor lay crumpled on the frigid metal floor like a sack of spoiled grain discarded by two Dark Angel soldiers. His body trembled violently, his face had drained of all color, and his eyes, fixed upon Gudong, burned with raw, unvarnished terror. He already knew what had transpired beyond these walls. The war had been won. The princess had been rescued. The orc forces had been annihilated to the last soldier. And he, the traitor who had betrayed her location, condemning tens of thousands of human troops to slaughter, had become the single, most discordant stain upon that radiant victory. He knew with chilling certainty that his fate was sealed. Gudong, no General Gu. He writhed feebly, straining to twist his lips into a servile smile. Congratulations. 1,000 congratulations. You are humanity's hero. You are silence. Gudong did not even glance at him, merely uttered two words, soft, yet absolute. Arthur's voice died mid-sentence. It felt as though an invisible hand had clamped shut his throat, leaving him mute, breathless, paralyzed. Besides Gudong, the chamber held General Li Marquis Ma and over a dozen battlefield commanders, each decorated for extraordinary valor during the planetary campaign. Every one of them stared at Arthur, not with curiosity, but with eyes sharp enough to flay flesh from bone, eyes brimming with fury, contempt, and undisguised murderous intent. Arthur's knees buckled further, his legs shook uncontrollably. Arthur Windsor Gudong finally spoke, and lifted a dossier, reading aloud in a quiet, measured tone. Heir to House Windsor, heir to Neo-Europe, I acknowledge your lineage carries weight. Yet during the Dragonstar system campaign you abandoned your post mid-battle, exposing our fleet's flank and causing the deaths of thousands of loyal soldiers. When the flagship Tianshu perished, you made no attempt to rescue your comrades, choosing instead to flee alone. After capture by the orcs, you willingly disclosed the Imperial Princess's whereabouts, endangering Her Highness and directly precipitating over 30,000 casualties among our ground forces during the subsequent rescue operation. With each sentence, Arthur's complexion grew paler, until by the final line his face had turned the color of bleached ash. Is any of this inaccurate? Gudong set the dossier aside and raised his gaze, meeting Arthur's eyes for the first time. No, not at all. I didn't do it. I never betrayed anyone. Arthur shrieked, his voice tearing ragged from his throat, a final desperate lunge at survival. They forced me. They tortured me, mercilessly. I simply couldn't endure it. He wept openly, painting himself as a broken martyr, broken not by guilt, but by unbearable suffering. Oh, is that so? A faint sardonic curve lifted the corner of Gudong's mouth. He snapped his fingers. Instantly, a holographic projection bloomed across the chamber wall. The image showed Arthur immediately after his capture by the orcs. He knelt bareheaded on cold stone, tears streaming freely, not from pain but from eager subservience, volunteering every scrap of intelligence he possessed, even competing to speak first. His fawning expression, his groveling posture, all captured with clinical clarity. This footage had been extracted by ground reconnaissance teams from the enemy commander's tactical recorder. Ironclad proof. Arthur stared at his own reflection in the light, his mind collapsing into hollow silence. Every lie, every evasion now lay exposed, pathetic, transparent, utterly void of power. He was finished, utterly, irrevocably finished. Under imperial military law, how is treason punished? Gudong turned toward General Li. General Li stepped forward, voice resonant as temple bronze. Treason is the gravest of crimes, punishable by execution and the eradication of 3 generations of kin. Arthur convulsed, then collapsed limp and shuddering as a pungent stench of urine filled the air. He had urinated himself in sheer animal terror. No, you cannot kill me. I am of the imperial bloodline. You have no right to judge me. He roared, frothing at the mouth, madness edging his voice. You lack authority to pass judgment. Only the 3 emperors of the Neo-European Union and the emperor of the Great Qian Empire may decide my fate. He clutched at his royal birthright like a talisman. Marquis Ma let out a cold, humorless laugh and stepped forward, driving his boot down hard onto Arthur's right hand. A sickening crunch echoed through the chamber. Ayakak! Arthur screamed, a sound like a slaughtered boar. To me you are less than excrement, Marquis Ma growled, his eyes bloodshot, veins pulsing beneath his temples. 3,200 of my men, my brothers, died because of your cowardice. Tell me, do I possess the right to judge you? He lifted his foot, then brought it down again, crushing Arthur's left hand with equal brutality. Another sharp crack. Another ear-splitting wail, so raw, so primal it sent chills crawling up every spine in the room. Enough. Gudong's voice cut through the chaos. Marquis Ma withdrew, but the murderous fire in his gaze remained undimmed. Duke Windsor, you are correct. Gudong rose slowly, walking forward until he stood directly before Arthur, towering, implacable, casting a long shadow over the broken man. I indeed hold no legal authority to try a foreign prince. A flicker of desperate hope ignited in Arthur's eyes. He believed Gudong had faltered, had backed down. Gudong's tone shifted, cold, precise, inexorable. He gestured toward Marquis Ma General Li and every commander present. But the souls of those 35,000 fallen warriors, do they not hold the right to pass judgment upon you? You wish for the noble assembly to preside over your trial. Very well, I grant you that privilege. A faint chilling smile touched Gudong's lips. Yet before that I believe you must first receive a proper greeting from the soldiers who fought on the front lines. He turned to the two dark angels stationed at the door. Take him away. Broadcast his treachery, the full account of how he betrayed the princess, and this very recording, to the entire fleet. Then deliver him to the field hospital. Inform every wounded soldier, and every comrade who lost a brother in arms because of him. Gudong's voice softened, yet curdled with infernal allure. This great hero is now yours to dispose of as you see fit. Let his fate rest entirely in their hands. Life or death determined solely by their will. Yes, sir. The two dark angels exchanged glances, eyes gleaming with savage anticipation as they dragged Arthur lifeless and whimpering from the chamber. Arthur grasped with dawning horror the abyss awaiting him. He would rather die by a single bullet than face the seething hatred of 30,000 soldiers who loathed him with every fiber of their being. That fate would be 10,000 times more terrible than death itself. Gudong did not look back. The heavy chamber door slammed shut behind Arthur, sealing his final fading cries in silence. The assembled commanders felt a collective chill crawl up their spines. This young man's methods were ruthless, beyond ruthless. To execute Arthur outright would have been simple, but Gudong chose otherwise. He sought to quell the righteous fury of 35,000 grieving families. He sought to soothe the simmering resentment of hundreds of thousands of frontline troops. He intended for Arthur to suffer prolonged, exquisite, inescapable agony, paying for every life he had betrayed. This was far more artful and infinitely more satisfying than mere execution. Well then, trash disposal is complete. Gudong settled back into his chair as though he had just concluded a routine administrative matter. Now, let us discuss what truly matters. His gaze swept across the room. The war is not over. Our true enemy remains hidden, lurking in the shadows, and we shall drag him forth into the light. His words electrified the room. They all knew, without doubt, that a greater storm still loomed ahead. As Gudong finished speaking, the atmosphere in the interrogation room grew solemn once more. General Li stepped forward and asked in a low, grave voice, "Commander Gu, do you mean to say that the orcs' unusual activity and the plot to assassinate the princess were orchestrated by a hidden hand? It is not mere possibility. It is certainty." Gudong's fingers tapped lightly upon the table. "Consider this, though brutish orcs are not foolish. Had they known the war was over, they would never have launched another assault. Why then did Grom Ironfang, a seasoned fleet commander, suddenly descend into madness, launching a suicidal charge at all costs? Because they were never informed of the surrender. Moreover, we discovered chitinous venom of the Xeno clan on their quantum communicators. And the detonation of the flagship Tianshu, its timing was far too precise. It occurred precisely when our space battle had been won and every soul stood at ease. Most crucially, the assassin Spard who triggered the nuclear device." Gudong's gaze deepened, dark and unyielding. "All these threads converge upon a single power. The Xeno clan." That single word sent a pall across every face in the chamber. The Xeno clan, a monstrous civilization entrenched in the far reaches of the galaxy, was the sworn enemy of all sentient races. They reveled in consumption and annihilation. Where they passed, not even dust remained. The Empire's war against the Xeno clan had raged for centuries. Though the Empire held slight advantage on the battlefield, the Xeno clan's insidious infiltration and corrosive subversion plagued the Imperial High Command beyond measure. You suggest, then, that Xeno clan spies have infiltrated the Orcish High Command and masterminded this entire scheme? Marquis Ma's brow nodded tightly. "Precisely," Gudong nodded. "Their objective was to ignite total war between humanity and the orcs, to bleed us both dry, so they might swoop in and claim dominion as the sole victor. Alas, they miscalculated." A cold, razor-thin smile flickered at the corner of Gudong's mouth. "They did not anticipate that we would not only capture Prince Wanyan Tian, but also seize another vital asset, Zhaoing the spy codenamed Nightingale. Now evidence is irrefutable. Witnesses and artifacts stand before us. We hold the initiative, unassailable and absolute." General Li and Marquis Ma exchanged a glance, and in each other's eyes they saw pure, unguarded exhilaration. They grasped Gudong's meaning. This was no longer merely a military triumph. It was a political earthquake, one poised to reshape the very architecture of the galaxy. "Commander Gu, you intend to..." General Li spoke, his voice thick with excitement. "Turn their own stratagem against them. Not only will we shatter the Xeno clan's conspiracy, we will transform the orcs into our allies. Transform the orcs into allies. The notion was audacious, bordering on madness. Humanity and the orcs were ancient blood-soaked enemies. Their wars had flared and guttered for over a century, forging hatred as deep and unyielding as bedrock. To now convert that archenemy into an ally, it seemed like myth, not strategy. Commander Gu, this shall prove exceedingly difficult. Marquis Ma spoke hesitantly. Wanyan Honglai, the Orcish sovereign, is famed as a tyrant. Even with proof, would he believe us? He will. Gudong's voice resonated with unwavering conviction. For we hold the two souls he cherishes most. One is his son, Wanyan Tian. The other, his mother, Li Lu, a legendary human force archmaster. At the name, Li Lu's silence fell like stone. Her disappearance 50 years ago, a force archmaster vanished without trace, had long been a forbidden subject among the imperial elite. No one imagined she had borne the Orcish sovereign a son, even under coercion. The revelation struck like lightning. Add to this the captured Xenoclan spy, and Prince Wanyan Tian's own testimony. Gudong continued, "Tell me, when confronted with irrefutable truth, will the Orcish sovereign choose to continue grinding his fangs against us? Or pivot his fury toward the Xenoclan, the deceiver who manipulated him, the usurper who nearly cost him his son's life?" The answer requires no utterance. General Li and Marquis Ma stood utterly transfixed, awestruck by Gudong's grand design. They had envisioned only victory in battle, liberation of Qianlong Star. Gudong envisioned something greater, leveraging war itself to recast the balance of galactic power. The gulf between those visions defied measurement. "I understand." General Li slammed his palm hard against his thigh. "We must contact His Imperial Majesty immediately and present your full plan. Request His Majesty's formal authorization." "No." Gudong shook his head. "This matter cannot proceed through official channels." "Why?" Confusion rippled across the room. "Because, within our own ranks, there may already be Xenoclan eyes." His words sent a chill through every spine. The traitor aboard the Tian Shu was not only sparred and Zhao Ying, others remain hidden. Until we root out every last infiltrator, any message transmitted through official networks risks interception by the Xenoclan. Then what do? We shall conduct our own diplomacy with the Orcish sovereign. A most cordial negotiation. A knowing smile played upon Gudong's lips. He turned his gaze outward, to the cerulean sphere hanging in the void. The war for Qianlong Star has ended. But a new game has just begun, and this time, we write the rules. Meanwhile, in Wanshou City, the capital of the Orcish Empire, countless light years from Qianlong Star, the Orcish sovereign Wanyan Honglai paced back and forth in furious agitation within his colossal palace. For days he had received no word from Field Commander Grom Ironfang. Scout fleets dispatched in desperation had vanished, swallowed whole, leaving no echo. An ill omen coiled cold around his heart. At that moment a herald tumbled into the chamber, breathless, trembling. "Your Majesty, catastrophe. News from the front." The herald's voice cracked with terror and despair. "Speak." Wanyan Honglai seized the man's collar. "Grom's fleet, annihilated. Our 800 warships deployed against Qianlong Star, and the 250,000 ground troops dispatched in reinforcement." The herald's voice trembled uncontrollably. "All gone." A thunderclap, silent yet deafening, struck Wanyan Honglia's mind. His vision dimmed, he swayed, nearly collapsing. "Gone. 800 warships. 250,000 warriors. Just erased. Did I not declare surrender? How dare the humans attack us? Who ordered it?" His roar shook the vaulted hall, stone groaning in resonance. It was a human commander named Gudong. Gudong. Wanyan Honglai repeated the name, eyes burning with bottomless venom and murderous intent. He swore, by blood and bone, he would tear that human limb from limb. Yet even as he raised his fist to command total mobilization for final apocalyptic war, a second far more staggering report pierced the air. "Your Majesty, a secured encrypted transmission request from that human Gudong. He says, he bears urgent words, on behalf of Prince Wanyan Tian himself." Wanyan Honglai froze, rigid as a statue. "Prince, my son." His breath caught, sharp and ragged raw. "Bring him in." It was a long while before Wanyan Honglai finally ground out those 3 words through clenched teeth. His voice was unnervingly hoarse. In the center of the grand hall, a massive holographic projection flickered to life. Gudong's youthful yet serene face appeared before all the Beastman ministers. "Beastman King Wanyan Honglai." Gudong's voice transmitted through the projection resonated with crystalline clarity across the entire hall. "Greetings. Though this is our first meeting, I believe we shall become well acquainted. Very soon." His tone bore no trace of addressing a sovereign whose empire had just lost hundreds of thousands of troops. Rather, it resembled nothing so much as a casual greeting exchanged between old friends. After all, only by avoiding provocation could war be averted, at least for now. Yet this disconcertingly nonchalant demeanor struck every beastman present as a profound and intolerable insult. It was as if their entire fleet's annihilation and the deaths of over 1 million souls had been casually erased from memory. Human, a hot-tempered beastman general could no longer contain himself and stepped forward. He pointed furiously at Gudong's hologram and roared, "You slaughtered over 1 million of my kin, and yet you dare speak to our sovereign in such a tone. You, did I grant you permission to speak?" Gudong's gaze hardened, instantly turning glacial. "You would do well to remember who ignited this war, and who now holds absolute advantage. Who commands the upper hand, utterly and irrevocably." Gudong did not even deign to glance at the general again. His eyes returned unwavering to Wanyan Honglai. "Before you order my body torn limb from limb, perhaps you'd first care to examine a few things." With that he snapped his fingers. The holographic display split into 3 panels. On the left appeared Wanyan Tian, the Beastman Prince. Unharmed, but visibly drained, his spirit dimmed. On the right stood Zhao Ying, codenamed Nightingale, bound tightly, gagged, her eyes wide with utter despair. The central panel began playing a video. The assassin sparred aboard the Tian Shu-class flagship. There he attempted to assassinate Wanyan Tian, only to be thwarted by Zhao Ying before detonating a tactical nuclear device. Enhanced through forensic processing, the footage clearly revealed both Spard's and Zhao Ying's dialogue, and the unmistakable energy signature of the insectoid race pulsing from their bodies. When Wanyan Honglai saw his own son nearly reduced to ash by a tactical nuke, his pupils contracted violently. And when he beheld the insectoid traits radiating from the very assassin who had tried to slay his son, disbelief froze upon his face. What is the meaning of this?" he blurted out, voice raw with shock. "Exactly as you have witnessed," replied Gudong, his tone devoid of inflection, as he began to explain. In the preceding exchange, Gudong had concisely recounted the sequence of events. They could all feel it, the suffocating volcanic tension emanating from their sovereign, Wanyan Honglai, seated upon the throne. "Daring to defy my direct command, that Tayat truly seeks death. He perished instantly in that cataclysmic blast. Then he died too easily. Were he in my grasp, I would dismantle him, limb by limb, breath by breath. Presently a third party seeks your son's death. First they dispatched an assassin, failing, then detonated your flagship, intending to obliterate both him and our empire's command echelon in one stroke. Their aim, to frame us for the prince's assassination and ignite an all-consuming, irreversible war between our two races. And this third party, I suspect you are already familiar with them." Gudong's voice struck Wanyan Honglai like a blacksmith's hammer, relentless, final. "The insectoid race." A stunned silence shattered the hall. Every beastman minister murmured among themselves, exchanging hushed, incredulous glances. Though fierce, they were not fools. The evidence Gudong presented formed an unbroken chain, logically airtight, flawlessly coherent. Had they truly been manipulated, used as unwitting pawns by the insectoids? Wanyan Honglai's expression darkened, shifting like storm clouds across a thunderous sky. His eyes locked onto Gudong, unblinking, unyielding. "Why should I trust you? This could all be forged. Your kind, humans, are masters of deceit. Belief, or disbelief, is yours alone to choose." This entire catastrophe stemmed from the insectoid spy Lu Minyuan sabotaging your quantum comms array, leaving Taya and his crew unaware of the surrender transmission. Nevertheless, we demand you immediately sever all cooperation with the insectoid race and fully compensate humanity for its losses. Only then may negotiations begin. Impossible. Do you have any idea how much time and treasure we expended to secure their alliance? Shall we abandon it on your mere word alone? Who precisely do you think you are? Refusal is acceptable. If you prefer receiving Wanyan Tian in separate parcels, you're welcome to try. Gudong shrugged indifferently, a gesture laced with menace. "You dare threaten me? Do you take me for some cowchild? Yet, I must now consider your proposal. I possess both witness and physical evidence. Your son stands before you. Even now you may speak with him directly and hear his account firsthand. The insectoid female spy stands here as well. At your nod, we may jointly conduct a formal inquiry into this matter." Gudong's unflinching candor unsettled the deep-rooted suspicion coiling within Wanyan Honglai's heart. "As for why I reveal this to you," Gudong smiled faintly. "Simply put, the enemy of my enemy is my ally. The insectoid race is our shared foe. I have no desire to wage war against them, while simultaneously diverting strength to contend with simple-minded green-skinned brutes like yourselves. Therefore, I offer you a choice. First, disbelieve me. Then your son and the female spy will be executed without delay. Afterward, I shall lead my fleet to Wanshou City and speak with you face to face." He paused, letting the implication settle like falling ash. Rest assured I possess the means to fulfill that promise. The threat hung naked in the air, unvarnished, absolute. Wanyan Honglai harbored no doubt this man, who had just annihilated 500,000 of his soldiers, would carry out his vow without hesitation. Second, Gudong continued, his voice softening yet no less commanding. Choose belief. Then let us sit down and negotiate cooperation in earnest. I will return your son, unharmed and scathed. The female spy shall be handed over to your judgment. In return, I ask only that you redirect your fury toward its true source. Declare war upon the insectoid race. Silence crashed over the hall, dense, absolute, suffocating. Every beastman stared at Gudong, not with anger, but with the dazed, disbelieving gaze reserved for madmen. Did this human truly expect the Beastman Empire to serve as his personal weapon? On what authority? At that moment, Gudong unveiled one final proposition, irresistible, undeniable. Of course, I know full well you'd never commit troops without recompense. So as proof of our sincerity in partnership. The moment Gudong finished speaking, the atmosphere in the grand hall instantly shifted, subtle, charged, and thick with unspoken intrigue. Every Beastman minister's gaze flickered from fury to keen curiosity. Even Wanyan Honglia's expression softened into one of genuine interest. I will freely share with you several advanced human technologies. His voice remained calm, yet each word landed like a detonating warhead. Including but not limited to controlled fusion energy systems, foundational nanomaterial fabrication techniques, and military-grade weapon upgrade protocols. The hall erupted. Though beastmen revered martial prowess, they were far from foolish. They understood with chilling clarity precisely what these technologies implied. Gudong smiled faintly. These breakthroughs may sound formidable, but in truth humanity held at least a 50-year lead over the beastmen in such fields. The knowledge he offered would merely narrow that gap to 40 years. Moreover, humanity's mastery of antimatter applications surpassed beastman capabilities. By over a century, humans had already engineered antimatter bombs, while beastmen still struggled to safely synthesize even 0.1 gram of antimatter. And once the insectoid hordes were eradicated, the beastmen's own extinction would swiftly follow. Their civilization could not translate technological advancement into battlefield readiness within any meaningful time frame. Furthermore, Gudong paused deliberately, as if granting them time to absorb the magnitude of his proposal. I offer Prince Wanyan Tian the opportunity to undergo a 5-year advanced military education at the Daqian Empire's Imperial Military Academy. What? Wanyan Honglai shot upright from his throne. This proposition struck him as even more astonishing than the technology transfer itself. Sending his own son to study in an enemy empire. Such a notion was unprecedented, unthinkable. Do you truly expect me to send my son into your territory? Your Highness, your vision is too narrow, Gudong replied with a quiet chuckle. I speak of scholarly cultivation, not captivity. Prince Wanyan Tian will enroll as an honorary cadet of the Daqian Empire's Imperial Military Academy, receiving elite instruction in interstellar tactics, fleet command, and grand strategic planning. Gudong's gaze grew solemn. Your Majesty, you know well that the Beastman Empire lags significantly in both military technology and tactical cognition. This recent catastrophe stands as irrefutable proof. The words stung, but Wanyan Honglai could not deny them. In that battle, 500,000 troops and 800 warships had been nearly annihilated, while the enemy sustained comparatively light losses. Such a chasm could no longer be bridged by courage or raw ferocity alone. Moreover, Gudong continued, Prince Wanyan Tian possesses exceptional natural aptitude. I conversed with him aboard the flagship. He displays remarkable mental acuity and rapid learning capacity. With rigorous systematic training, he shall undoubtedly evolve into a formidable commander. Wanyan Honglai fell silent. As a father, he yearned for his son's strength to deepen beyond measure. And as sovereign, he longed even more fiercely for his heir to wield the wisdom and competence necessary to safeguard the Beastman Empire's future. This gesture also serves as the most profound testament to our sincerity in forging this alliance. Gudong added, we are prepared to welcome your future monarch as an honored guest, demonstrating unequivocally the gravity with which humanity regards this partnership. A heavy silence settled over the hall for several minutes. Wanyan Honglai contemplated. So did the other Beastman ministers. At last, an elder Beastman minister stepped forward. Your Majesty, this proposal merits serious consideration. His voice trembled, shaken to his core by the sheer audacity of the offer. Technology transfer holds transformative significance for us, while the prince's educational opportunity is nothing short of historic. Indeed, Your Majesty. Another minister rose. We have cooperated with the insectoids for decades, yet never once did they extend such generosity. To speak plainly, the insectoids exploit us. This human, however, offers tangible and valuable assets. After all, What does it matter whom we ally with so long as the alliance serves our survival? Wang Yanhong's eyes drifted between Gudong's holographic projection and the side displays showing his son and the human female spy. After a long suspended breath, he exhaled deeply. You truly intend to impart these technologies to us, without fear that we might one day turn them against you? Ha, Gudong laughed. Your Majesty, you still misunderstand the fundamental reality. This is not about your threat to us. It is about whether we choose to grant you a path to survival. Even should I bestow these technologies upon you, full assimilation and mastery would demand no less than a decade, or perhaps longer. By then, how far ahead will humanity have surged? Gudong's candor startled Wang Yanhonglai. This human spoke with arrogance, but also with unmistakable sincerity. Besides, Gudong shrugged. The insectoid horde remains our shared existential foe. Now is no time for mutual attrition. Your empire lies on the frontier, granting you superior intelligence on insectoid movements. Ours boasts unparalleled technological advancement, but our understanding of the insectoids remains superficial. Should we unite, leveraging our complementary strengths, our odds of victory against the swarm would rise dramatically. Wang Yanhonglai nodded slowly. The logic was unassailable. Then, regarding reparations. Since this is an alliance, a token indemnity of 10,000 tons of gold shall suffice. At the current federal credit exchange rate, 100 credits per gram, the sum amounted to little more than 1 trillion credits, barely equivalent to the value of human warships lost in the engagement. Gudong waved dismissively. Let us meet halfway. I withdraw my demand for full restitution, and you in turn release all claim to those 50,000 surviving troops. The true architect of this calamity is the insectoid hive. Truthfully, the loss of 50,000 soldiers weighed insignificantly upon the Beastman Empire. Relief washed over the Beastman ministers in the hall. Those remnants were little more than logistical burdens, easily discarded. Gudong, meanwhile, had already determined their ultimate disposition. Agreed. Wang Yanhonglai slammed his fist onto the armrest. From this day forth, the Beastman Empire and the Daqian Empire stand as sworn allies, united against the insectoid scourge. Thunderous applause filled the hall. Every Beastman minister wore an expression of exhilarated anticipation. Technology transfer promised incremental advancement, not a paradigm shift. Yet the prince's scholarship represented something far greater, a bridge to the empire's enduring future. Very well. Gudong nodded in satisfaction. Now let us discuss the specifics of our cooperation. First, the timing of our declaration of war against the insectoid race. 1 year from now. My voice rang with unshakable resolve. Wang Yanhonglai's tone was firm and commanding. Grant me 1 year. I will summon every tribal chieftain and reveal the insectoid's true nature. Then I shall unify our strength. Then I shall ignite the fury of the entire Beastman Empire over this betrayal. And I shall make the insectoids pay, dearly, for their treachery and deceit. Flames of vengeance burned fiercely in Wang Yanhonglia's eyes. Nothing enraged him more than being manipulated like a fool. The insectoids must die. Agreed. Gudong, I accept your terms. He ground the words out through clenched teeth. My son Tian shall henceforth study abroad, in your great Qian Empire for 10 years. During this decade, the Beastman Empire shall stand shoulder to shoulder with you against the insectoid race. Gudong's expression remained impassive as he gave a slight, deliberate nod. A wise choice. His voice was calm, measured, devoid of triumph. I shall assign personnel to draft the formal agreement and transmit the catalog of the first batch of technological data to you. As for your son, I guarantee his safety and comfort in the great Qian Empire. That statement carried an unspoken weight, causing Wang Yanhonglia's eyelid to twitch faintly. He knew full well Gudong was delivering a veiled warning, that the secret shame binding Wang Yantian remained firmly in human hands. I trust you will honor your word. Wang Yanhonglai let out a cold snort, and severed the transmission without another word. Silence thick and absolute descended upon the bridge of the flagship Longyuan-class vessel. Gudong. Chi Miao was the first to recover, her voice trembling slightly. You actually persuaded Wang Yanhonglai. She could scarcely believe her own ears, or eyes. This was Wang Yanhonglai, the Beastman King famed across empires for his brutality and obstinacy. Imperial military archives had long classified him as an uncivilizable war beast. Gudong turned, observing the stunned expressions around him, and found it faintly amusing. Persuade? If anything, this was coercion, not persuasion. I did not persuade him. I simply presented him with a choice he could not refuse. Either watch his heir perish while enemy fleets descend upon his capital, leaving the insectoids to reap the spoils, or swallow his pride, reclaim his son, gain desperately needed technology, and turn his wrath upon the true architects of his ruin. He is a warlord, not a fool. He knows precisely which path to take. Gudong's explanation was blunt, unadorned, yet to those listening it sounded like myth made manifest. To press a blade to another's throat, and then ask if they wished to be friends. Only Gudong would dare conceive such a thing. General Lin drew a slow, deep breath, feeling for the first time in his life that every grand spectacle he had ever witnessed paled before this singular moment. Then, what of the 500,000 Beastman prisoners on Qianlong Star? He raised the most pressing question of all. What do we do now? We cannot hold them indefinitely. The daily resource expenditure is astronomical. Indeed, it was a crisis. 500,000 mouths to feed and hydrate would rapidly deplete Qianlong Star's reserves. Moreover, these were warriors who had just fought to the death against them. Governing them would be perilously difficult. Marquis Ma's brow furrowed deeply. These men are defiant and unruly. Even in surrender, rebellion simmers beneath the surface. Guarding them consumes vast numbers of our troops. And we have slain so many of their kin. Their hatred runs bone deep. All eyes converged upon Gudong, awaiting his solution. Gudong strode toward the massive stellar map, gazing at the dense cluster of crimson dots representing the Beastman captives. Then a subtle knowing curve lifted the corner of his lips. Who said we'd keep them idle? His voice was quiet, but every officer on the bridge leaned in, ears straining. General Lin, I reviewed Qianlong Star's mineral survey report. The reserves are abundant, yet extraction remains severely hampered by chronic labor shortages. Am I correct? General Lin hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yes. Our personnel are almost entirely committed to frontline military posts. The mines remain critically understaffed. Marquis Ma, I recall you previously noted that the city's waste management infrastructure operates perpetually beyond capacity. Much refuse is merely stockpiled or landfilled, inflicting severe environmental strain. Marquis Ma looked puzzled, but affirmed, indeed. Our waste processing capacity lags far behind population growth. Gudong extended a finger and traced a wide, decisive circle around the sea of crimson dots on the holographic display. Now, free labor has arrived. Issue my order, immediately. Gudong's voice turned sharp, crystalline. All Beastman prisoners are to be disbanded from their original units and reorganized into labor detachments of 100 each. One contingent shall be dispatched to the mines, to work round the clock in 3 rotating shifts, until Qianlong Stars or output doubles. Another contingent shall assume responsibility for urban waste disposal. I understand Beastmen possess extraordinarily robust digestive systems, capable of metabolizing nearly any organic matter. Excellent. Let them process that mountainous accumulation of refuse thoroughly. Inform them perform diligently, and sustenance will follow. Laziness or insubordination will result in immediate deprivation. Once again, an eerie hush fell across the bridge, every officer frozen in disbelief. To compel former invaders to dig ore, and then consume waste. Was this truly the product of a human mind? Chi Miao opened her mouth to protest the apparent inhumanity, then closed it again. For she realized suddenly that this was not only the sole viable solution, but also the optimal one, resolving the prisoner dilemma, alleviating planetary labor shortages, and mitigating ecological damage, all without costing the Empire a single credit. It was quite literally a quadruple win. Such treatment constituted a profound, calculated humiliation, one designed to shatter the warrior's dignity and pride, utterly extinguishing any lingering spark of resistance. Brilliant. Utterly brilliant. General Lin, after holding his breath for an eternity, finally slammed his palm onto his thigh in awe. General Gudong, I Lin Mao am thoroughly convinced. Utterly convinced. Marquis Ma wore an expression of genuine admiration. He thought with this arrangement his elite Dark Angels would be freed from guard duty and redirected toward critical training and strategic readiness. Gudong observed their reactions with detached equanimity. To him, this was merely the most fundamental application of resource optimization. These Beastman captives were no longer enemies or soldiers, in his estimation. They were mobile functional resources. So be it. Gudong sealed the decision with finality. Execute immediately. I demand the first shipment of refined ore and fully sanitized waste sites within 72 hours. Affirmative. General Lin and Marquis Ma snapped to attention and strode away with brisk, energized steps, already mentally drafting implementation protocols. Only Gudong and Chi Miao remained aboard the bridge. She studied his profile, her gaze layered with complexity. This man always revealed a new facet just when she believed she had grasped his essence. His logic seemed to inhabit a dimension entirely alien to ordinary human cognition. You truly intend to forge an alliance with the Beastman King and his empire? She still couldn't quite believe it. Gudong turned, meeting her eyes directly. Your Highness, you must remember, before absolute interest there are neither eternal enemies nor eternal allies. The Beastmen require our technology to survive, We require their martial strength to confront the insectoids. That suffices. As for hatred, it is a preoccupation reserved solely for the weak. For us it holds but one value: fuel to forge ourselves ever stronger. Having spoken, he turned away from her and fixed his gaze once more upon the infinite, star-strewn void. There in the unfathomable depths of space, a far vaster and far more perilous game was unfolding, and he had just placed a move of decisive consequence. The post-war reconstruction of Qianlong Star is proceeding in an orderly manner. Under Gudong's iron-fisted approach, hundreds of thousands of orc captives have been transformed into the most efficient labor force. Mines rise one after another, and the mountains of city waste are disappearing at a visible speed. However, the mortality rate of these orc captives is a bit high. In less than 4 days, 15% of them have perished. The operational efficiency of the entire planet has reached an unprecedented height. One can only say that the orcs' height of over 2 meters is no joke. They truly descend into the mines. The soldiers of the Third Fleet, after enduring the baptism of blood and fire, have reached the peak of their admiration and trust in Gudong. In their eyes, Gudong is no longer just a commander, but rather a god capable of anything. It can be said that Gudong is now the most authoritative figure in the entire Allied fleet aside from Commander Qimiao. On this day, Gudong is at the command center of Qianlong Star, studying the first batch of intelligence regarding the Zerg sent by the Orc King. This intelligence is quite fragmented, but combined with the information provided by the system, he has faintly outlined the approximate layout of the Zerg in the Milky Way. The strength of the Zerg is far greater than that of humans, and their technology is virtually non-existent, relying entirely on biology. However, their emphasis is on sheer numbers. A single Zerg hive ship is astonishingly 20 kilometers long. This is an enemy 100 times more dangerous than the Orc Empire, Gudong thought to himself. Just then the radar officer on the bridge suddenly exclaimed, "Report, General. A massive warp reaction has been detected. The number is beyond estimation. It is approaching us." The atmosphere instantly tensed up. Everyone turned to look at Gudong. "Is it the orcs?" General Lin immediately stood up, his hand resting on the command platform. Gudong's expression hardened as he quickly brought up the detailed data from the radar scan. On the screen, a gigantic energy reaction was forming in space, its scale even exceeding the combined total of the previous 800 orc warships. It's not the orcs, but I recognize their warp signal. It's also not the Zerg. The signal pattern does not match. Gudong made a swift judgment. Who could it be? Just as everyone was filled with uncertainty, Princess Qi Miao's communicator suddenly rang. After she answered, a complex expression appeared on her face. She walked to Gudong's side and whispered, "It's the Imperial Royal Fleet reinforcements sent by my father. My 2 brothers, the 1st Prince Qi Yun and the 6th Prince Qi Feng, are leading the team personally." Reinforcements? And from the Royal Fleet? The crowd on the bridge was first taken aback, then erupted into cheers. Great! The reinforcements have finally arrived. And they're from the Royal Fleet. That's the elite force of our Daqian Empire. Now they no longer have to worry about the orcs returning. Only Gudong, General Lin, and a few others furrowed their brows. Moreover, 2 princes are leading the charge. Gudong's heart felt like a mirror. He knew very well that the commotion he caused on Qianlong Star was too great. Capturing the Orc Prince, forcing the Orc King to sign a peace treaty, and even turning a long-standing feud into an alliance. Any one of these actions would be enough to shake the upper echelons of the entire empire. The Emperor sending his own sons is on one hand a declaration of sovereignty, and on the other probably to probe the bottom line of this meritorious minister. Order the entire fleet to stand down from level 1 combat readiness and maintain routine vigilance. Gudong calmly issued the command. Yes. Soon the cosmos outside Qianlong Star began to warp violently. One massive warp exit after another was torn open. Following that, massive warships adorned with the golden dragon emblem slowly emerged from the warp passage. The design of these ships is even more ornate and larger than the Daqian-class battleships of the Third Fleet. Each warship's bow is carved with a fierce dragon head, its cannons flashing with terrifying energy. Yet the most eye-catching are the 7 colossal ships at the very center of the fleet. They are terrifying entities comparable to asteroids. Their hulls resembled giant mushrooms covered in a layer of dark golden armor that seems to absorb light, radiating an overwhelming pressure. Divine Envoy class. Titan. General Lin gasped as he looked at the 7 giant ships, his voice trembling slightly. The Empire's powerful strategic weapon, each capable of destroying a planet. My God, the Emperor actually sent all 7 Divine Envoy class ships. The other officers on the bridge were also dumbfounded. The vast majority of them had only seen such legendary warships in military textbooks. Now witnessing them in person, the sense of shock is unparalleled. It feels as if the battleship they are aboard is as insignificant as a tiny boat before them. Gudong also narrowed his eyes. Is this the true foundation of the Daqian Empire? Indeed unfathomable. His system immediately began scanning these Divine Envoy-class Titans. Ding. Scan complete. Divine Envoy-class Titan, one of the highest strategic units of the Daqian Empire, with an energy shield strength 10 times that of a Daemon-class battleship. Level S. The host's current system level 7 can scan and obtain blueprints for battleships below level A. Level S. This is the first time the system has given such an evaluation. Titans cannot remain in low Earth orbit of a planet, for it would cause tidal changes on that planet. Just from this point alone, one can understand how massive they are. For the first time, Gudong felt a genuine sense of apprehension towards this seemingly feudal empire. Just then, an encrypted communication request came in, specifically requesting Gudong and Chi Miao to answer. Gudong signaled to connect. On the screen appeared the figures of two young men. Both were dressed in magnificent royal garments resembling Chi Miao to some extent, but their demeanor was entirely different. The older one on the left had a stern face, sharp eyes like blades radiating the aura of a battle-hardened soldier. He was the first Prince Chi Yun. The one on the right wore a smile, looking gentle and refined, yet a hint of shrewdness and calculation lurked in his eyes. He was the sixth Prince Chi Feng. Third sister, long time no see. The second Prince Chi Feng was the first to speak, his smile warm. I heard you encountered danger on Qianlong Star, my brother, and I were quite worried about you. Chi Miao slightly bowed to the screen. Thank you, elder brother, second brother, for your concern. I am fine now. Her tone was very flat, devoid of any sense of intimacy. The first Prince Chi Yun's gaze, however, directly overlooked Chi Miao and landed on Gudong. His eyes seemed to scrutinize an object filled with a sense of pressure. You are Gudong. His voice was deep and powerful, carrying a kind of arrogance that comes from long standing in a position of power. Gudong did not speak, only calmly met his gaze. The atmosphere in that moment became somewhat solidified. The gaze of the first Prince Chi Yun was fiercely aggressive. It was the kind of look accustomed to looking down on all beings, filled with scrutiny and unrestrained doubt. In his eyes, Gudong was merely a lowly noble who had stumbled upon good fortune, achieving some merit by chance. Meanwhile, he was the firstborn of the Daqian Empire, the future heir and natural ruler. He wanted this ignorant fellow to understand who the true master here was. However, he was disappointed. Gudong's eyes were as calm as a bottomless ancient well. There was no fear, no flattery, not even a hint of emotional fluctuation. He simply stood there quietly. For the first time, a slight unease arose in Chi Yun's heart. How dare a mere commoner look at me like that? He was just a useless fool trying to rise to power by relying on my sister. Marquis Gudong. It was still the sixth Prince Chi Feng who broke the deadlock with a smile, his tone as if he had noticed nothing unusual. In this recent victory at the Qianlong Star, you have made extraordinary contributions. The Emperor has heard your name in the capital and praises you endlessly. While this sounded like a compliment, it actually pointed out that your achievements are known to the Emperor. We are here on behalf of the Emperor. Finally, Gudong spoke, his voice equally flat. It was merely my duty. 5 simple words, neither humble nor arrogant, directly countered Chi Feng's words. Chi Feng's smile momentarily stiffened, but soon returned to normal. This Gudong was rather interesting. He was unlike the soldiers he had encountered before, either boorish brutes or sycophants eager to climb the ranks. All right, enough small talk. The first Prince Chi Yun impatiently interrupted them. Gudong, immediately report to us the entire process of the Qianlong Star battle and all the details of your negotiations with the Beast King. Remember all details without omissions. His tone was like that of a superior issuing orders to a subordinate. General Lin and Marquis Ma both looked somewhat displeased. Gudong was now the highest authority of the fleet, their direct superior. Moreover, he had just saved the entire Qianlong Star from peril. For these two princes to come in without asking about the battle situation or caring for the soldiers, and instead treating a meritorious officer with such an interrogative tone, was simply excessive. Chi Miao also frowned. Elder brother General Gudong is the hero of this battle. You should show him some respect. Respect? Chi Yun sneered. Third sister, have you been down there for too long and forgotten the principles of the empire? He is merely a general, while we are princes. We represent the emperor's will. It is his honor to report to us. After saying this, he ignored Chi Miao and once again fixed his imposing gaze on Gudong. What? Did you not hear my words? The atmosphere on the bridge had dropped to freezing point. Everyone was looking at Gudong, eager to see how he would respond. Would he choose to endure the humiliation, or? Gudong suddenly smiled. He walked to the commander's seat and sat down with an air of authority. Then he crossed his legs, comfortably leaning back in the chair. This action instantly changed the expressions of the two princes on the screen. This was no longer mere disrespect. This was an outright provocation. Your Highnesses, Gudong said leisurely, if you wish to hear the report, you may. However, according to the regulations of the Imperial military, battle reports are classified and can only be presented in person. Furthermore, before presenting the report, I need to verify your identities and whether you have the authority to access this report. He paused, looking at Qi Yun, who had turned ashen. After all, the sudden appearance of the royal fleet at a recently concluded battlefield is somewhat suspicious. If they were enemies in disguise, would I not become a traitor to the Empire? As soon as Gudong's words left his mouth, the entire bridge fell silent. He has lost his mind. General Gudong is definitely out of his mind. He actually questioned the identity of the princes. He actually said the royal fleet's behavior was suspicious. General Lin and Marquis Ma felt their hearts pounding. Although they were also dissatisfied with the attitude of the two princes, they never expected Gudong to respond so boldly. Qi Miao was equally shocked, her mouth opened, but she could not utter a single word. Meanwhile, on the other side of the screen, the smile on the second Prince Qifeng's face had completely vanished, replaced by a dark cloud. The first Prince Qi Yun was trembling with anger, his face turning a deep crimson. Impudence! He roared, his voice loud enough to seem as if it would pierce through the screen. Gudong, you have some nerve. Are you questioning the royal family? Do you wish to rebel? Gudong casually scratched his ear, appearing indifferent. Your Highness, why be so agitated? I am merely acting according to the rules. If the two Highnesses can present the Emperor's decree, proving you have the authority to take over the defense of Qianlong Star, I will naturally hand over command. If not, please have your fleet remain on standby outside the orbit. This is a frontline war zone, not your royal garden. In my territory, everything must obey my orders. Rebel! Gudong sneered, his gaze suddenly sharp. Your Highness must not make baseless accusations. My hundreds of thousands of soldiers have just shed blood and sacrificed themselves to defend the Empire. You wish to erase our contributions with a single word and label us as rebels. Ask them if they agree. His voice was not loud, but every word was powerful, resonating resolutely. As his words fell on the bridge, General Lin, Marquis Ma, and all the officers stood up straight, in unison, hands on their weapons, cold gazes directed at the two princes on the screen. An unspoken killing intent spread instantaneously. This was the aura of elite warriors. This was the military spirit that had crawled out from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. On the other side of the screen, Qi Yun and Qifeng instinctively took half a step back under this pressure. The soul of this army was the man before them who appeared calm, but was actually extraordinarily proud. Qi Yun's expression changed several times. He wanted to erupt in anger, to order a divine-level titan to teach the other side a lesson. But he did not dare. After all, they were allies. Moreover, if a fight truly broke out, they would undoubtedly pay a price. Most importantly, once this incident reached the capital, he would never be able to shake off the label of forcing a meritorious officer. The Emperor would absolutely not spare him. The second prince, Qifeng, was quicker to think. He immediately realized they had been wrong from the start. They should not treat Gudong as an ordinary subject. This person was a wild and untamed tiger. To subdue him, they could only stroke his fur in the right direction and lure him with benefits. Trying to suppress him with power, that would only provoke his strongest resistance. Cough, cough, elder brother General Gudong, we are all serving the Empire. Why must we make the atmosphere so tense? Qifeng once again showed a smile, but this time there was a hint of flattery in it. General Gudong is correct, we were indeed too abrupt. According to regulations, we should indeed have introduced our identities and intentions to you first. He said this while taking out a document sealed with the golden dragon seal from his bosom. This is the Emperor's decree. Oh, please take a look, General Gudong. He held the decree up to the camera. Gudong's system completed the scan and verification immediately. Ding. Document verification passed, confirmed as the Emperor of Daqian Dynasty personal decree. Content of the decree authorizing first Prince Qi Yun and second Prince Qifeng to represent the royal family, to comfort the Qianlong Star garrison and assist General Gudong in dealing with post-war matters, and to garrison the Lyra Star domain. Note that it is assist, not take over. Gudong's lips curled slightly. The Emperor's son is indeed an astute man. He understands his own rebellious nature and realizes he holds considerable military power, which is why he deliberately used the term assist in his orders. This is both a gesture of respect and a means to placate him. I have seen the orders. Gudong nodded, standing up from his chair, yet showing no hint of respect. Since you are here to assist, you are most welcome. Let me arrange for a shuttle to take the two princes to the ground command center. We shall discuss matters face to face. With that, he directly ended the communication. The screen went dark. In the bridge, General Lin and Marquis Ma looked at Gudong, their eyes filled with fervent admiration. So domineering. He stood firm against the prince and forced the other party to bow their head. This is the commander they envision. Qi Miao wore a bitter smile. His two brothers had always been proud and arrogant, and after Gudong's actions, their mindset was likely not in a good place. Indeed, that was the case. On the flagship Divine Envoy-class Titan Tiangong, Qi Yun pounded his fist on the command console in anger. Damn it! Who does Gudong think he is to be so disrespectful? We traveled a long distance from the heart of the Empire, and he dares to act this way. The sixth Prince Seong stood by, his eyes flickering, lost in thought. Elder brother, calm down. He spoke slowly. This Gudong is far more challenging than we imagined. Not only does he possess capability and military achievements, but more importantly, he has almost completely taken control of the Third Fleet, led by our third sister. It's not easy for us to move against him. Yin snorted coldly, but so what? My royal fleet has 7 titans here. Crushing them would be as easy as turning a hand. And then what? Feng countered. Then we would carry the label of slaughtering imperial meritocrats, be deposed by father, and let the third and fourth brothers laugh at us. Yun was momentarily speechless. Then what do you propose? Just let him ride on our heads. A glimmer of light flashed in Feng's eyes. No, we shall meet him. I want to see for myself just what kind of person this Gudong is. Moreover, I have a feeling he hides an even greater secret. Half an hour later, a magnificent royal shuttle slowly descended in front of the temporary command center on Qianlong Star. The cabin door opened, and the two brothers Yun and Feng emerged, surrounded by a group of golden-armored guards. Gudong did not personally go to greet them. He only sent General Lin as a representative. This was undoubtedly another silent slight. Yun's face darkened further. Had it not been for Feng's hold, he might have exploded on the spot. General Gudong is currently handling urgent military affairs at the command center, and especially sent me to welcome the two princes. General Lin stated expressionlessly, with a tone that was purely businesslike. Feng wore a smile, seemingly unfazed. No worries, military affairs are pressing, we understand. Thank you, General Lin, for leading the way. The group walked through a long corridor and arrived at the flagship command center. Gudong was standing in front of a massive star map, with his back to them, seemingly engrossed in study. Only when they approached did he slowly turn around. Your Highness is welcome to Qianlong Star. I am in military uniform, so I cannot bow. His tone was very flat, neither standing to bow nor engaging in excessive pleasantries. Yun's patience had reached its limit. He snorted coldly and was about to speak. At that moment, a piercing alarm suddenly blared from the command center. Alarm! Alarm! High-intensity energy leakage occurred at Training Ground 7. The power armor is overloaded and about to explode. An officer immediately reported loudly. What? General Lin's expression changed. How could such a thing happen at the training ground? Who was training inside? Reporting to the general, it's the recruits of the Dark Angel Battle Group, conducting their first cooperative training with power armor. Marquis Ma is also on site. Nonsense. General Lin exclaimed angrily. How can recruits directly engage in high-intensity cooperation? What is Marquis Ma thinking? Power armor is standard issue for interstellar warriors. A slight mistake could lead to an energy core overload. If the supply module at the back exploded, it would be as powerful as a small missile capable of leveling the entire training ground. And in the training ground, there were at least 100 recruits from the Dark Angels. Immediately evacuate the area. Order Marquis Ma to cut off the energy supply to the overloaded armor at once. General Lin hastily ordered. There's no time, General. The officer shouted anxiously. The circuit has been burned out, and we cannot cut it off remotely. The command center screen immediately switched to the surveillance footage of Training Ground 7. In the center of a massive training ground, a power armor was flickering with sparks engulfed in electrical fire, clearly having gone completely out of control. Surrounding it, Marquis Ma and a group of veterans were attempting to approach, but the heat was unbearable. Further away, hundreds of recruits were frantically rushing towards the exit. The scene was chaotic. The soldier inside the armor was screaming in agony. Damn it! General Lin pounded his fist on the table. He knew it was over. From energy overload to explosion, there were at most only 10 seconds. 5 seconds had already passed. No one could save them now. Qi Miao's face also turned pale. Those were elite soldiers of the Empire. The cost to train an interstellar warrior could cover a normal person's lifetime expenses. To be destroyed here was a great pity. Yun and Feng, however, wore expressions of amusement. Particularly Yun, whose lips even revealed a hint of a gloating cold smile. The distance of 50 meters was right before them, yet they were completely unperturbed, for in front of them was a thick 50 centimeters bulletproof glass, which could easily withstand such an explosion. Let you be arrogant and haughty. Now that trouble has come, can you not even manage your own subordinates? Let's see how you end this. Just when everyone thought a tragedy was inevitable. Gudong moved. He simply raised his right hand slightly. Then, facing the empty air, he gently clenched his fist. This action was inexplicable. Everyone was stunned, not understanding what he was doing. However, the next second, in the surveillance footage, a spectacle occurred that nearly made everyone's eyes pop out. The power armor on the verge of explosion appeared to be gripped tightly by an invisible giant hand. Its wild shaking abruptly ceased. All flickering arcs of electricity, all surging energy, were forcefully pressed back in that instant. Then with a crisp sound, the energy core behind the power armor, which was more solid than alloy, was directly removed from the armor by this invisible hand. Barehanded, it was taken off. Once the energy core detached from the armor's main body, it immediately lost its power supply. The dangerous red light quickly dimmed and eventually extinguished completely. A crisis was thus effortlessly resolved. The entire command center fell silent, so quiet one could hear a pin drop. Everyone was petrified. General Lin gaped, forgetting what he was going to say. Chi Miao covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes filled with disbelief. The few royal guards were so frightened that they nearly dropped their weapons. Chi Yun and Chi Feng's expressions changed from watching a show to shock, then to horror, finally turning into profound astonishment. They were not incompetent dandy youths. As princes, they had received elite education from a young age and had been exposed to the Empire's highest-level force masters. They were very clear about what that scene meant. That was neither technology nor any supernatural ability. That was the Force. From dozens of meters away, he precisely dismantled an energy core on the verge of explosion. Such exquisite control over power is even more terrifying than that of an average Force apprentice. Gudong. He is actually a hidden Force wielder. This thought struck the two brothers like a lightning bolt, leaving them cold and paralyzed. A commander wielding heavy military might with a reputation for great achievements and cunning intellect is already formidable enough. But what if he himself is also a Force wielder? Once cultivated to the rank of Force Master, with his intelligence and future merits, becoming a king is certainly within reach. At that point, he would no longer be a mere tiger. He is a python. Cold sweat trickled down Chi Yun's forehead. He finally understood why his father had chosen the term assist in the order. He also finally understood the source of Gudong's confidence. In the command center, Gudong slowly lowered his hand, as if he had merely performed a trivial task. He turned around, looking at the two princes, who were completely stunned, a faint smile curving at the corners of his mouth. I apologize for making you two princes laugh. My subordinates were careless and caused a little accident. Shall we continue our previous discussion? Laugh. The sixth prince, Chi Feng's throat rolled with difficulty. He tried to force a smile, but found his facial muscles completely stiff. Is this called a little accident? You call this a little accident? Dismantling a bomb by hand is as easy as dusting off a shelf to you. Now he finally understood why Gudong dared to speak to them in that manner. If he got angry, he could simply carry out a beheading operation. After all, the orc prince could be captured alive 3 light-years away amidst a fleet of 1,500 warships. How could this not be possible at such close range? Thinking of this made Chi Feng's back feel a chill. The first prince, Chi Yun's expression was even more ghastly. His previous arrogance and disdain now seemed like a huge joke. Did he still want to make things difficult for him? He felt a burning sensation on his face, as if he had been slapped hard. Gu. General Gu. Chi Yun's voice was a bit dry. He tried to make his tone sound steady, but the slight tremor in his voice betrayed his inner turmoil. You are a Force wielder. He voiced the question in everyone's hearts. Upon hearing this, Gudong had yet to respond when an elderly and excited voice rang out from the doorway. No, he is not yet a master. Everyone turned to the source of the voice, only to see the Force Master Seong, who had appeared at the command center's entrance without anyone noticing. His gaze was fixated on Gudong, filled with unprecedented shock, ecstasy, and a hint of confusion. Seong, how did he arrive? Chi Miao and General Lin were somewhat surprised. Since arriving at Qianlong Star, Seong had spent most of his time in seclusion or teaching a few soldiers, with Force talent rarely appearing in the command center. Upon seeing Seong, Chi Yun and Chi Feng quickly composed themselves and respectfully bowed. We greet Master Seong. Seong was indeed one of the second-level Force masters of the Empire, holding a prestigious position. He returned a simple gesture of respect. Then, as if he hadn't seen them, he walked straight up to Gudong, examining him from head to toe, muttering to himself. Something's not right. This Force. So pure. It's like a seedling just breaking through the soil, yet it contains the potential to grow into a towering tree. Strange, too strange. He circled around Gudong twice, even sniffing at him, looking like an archaeologist who had discovered a rare treasure. Gudong felt a bit uneasy under his scrutiny. His Force was not innate, but purchased from the system. Would that be discovered? Ahem, Master Seong, do you have something to say? Seong suddenly slapped his thigh, his eyes sparkling as he looked at Gudong. Kid, tell me the truth, how long have you been awakening your Force? Gudong thought for a moment. It indeed hadn't been long since he exchanged it from the system. Not many days, I suppose. Not many days. Seong's voice suddenly rose by 8 degrees, nearly causing his beard to stand on end. You call that not many days? Are you kidding me? A typical Force Awakener after 10 years can achieve level 3 of Force Apprentice, and that's already impressive. And you from 50 meters away forcibly dismantled a nuclear reactor, and you say you've only awakened for a few days. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Song clearly did not believe him. Gudong felt helpless. He couldn't exactly say he had a cheat, could he? He could only vaguely say maybe. I have a better talent. Better talent. Song's eyes widened like copper bells. This isn't just a matter of talent. This is a monster. A freak, he said, suddenly reaching out with his withered hand to grasp Gudong's wrist. Don't move. Let me personally investigate. A gentle yet vast force instantly surged from Song's palm into Gudong's body, beginning to probe his condition. Gudong did not resist. He knew this was the best opportunity to explain his abilities. In front of a true grandmaster, any lie would be exposed. It was better to be honest. As the probing deepened, the expressions on Song's face changed unpredictably like a die shop. From initial shock to midway confusion, then to later ecstasy, finally becoming a dazed expression as if witnessing a miracle. Pure. So pure. How is this possible? This constitution only exists in theory. It has never appeared in 1,000 years. And the amount of this force. Vast as the sea, unfathomable. He hasn't even started formal cultivation, yet his amount is already greater than many force masters who have toiled for 100 years. A monster. A true monster. Song's hand trembled not out of fear, but from extreme excitement. With just a little guidance, he could shine with brilliance that illuminated the entire galaxy. The others wore expressions as if they were in a dream. What kind of terrifying level of talent does General Gudong possess to make a master lose composure like this? Qi Yun and Qi Feng were utterly numb. Their minds had stopped thinking. First a war god, then a brilliant strategist, and now an ancient millennium force prodigy. What other identities does Gudong have? Is he even human? Finally, Song slowly released his grip, looking at Gudong as if he were a rare treasure. No, even more precious than that. He straightened his somewhat disheveled robes, and in the astonished gazes of everyone, he deeply bowed to Gudong with great seriousness. Gudong. His voice was extremely solemn. I'd Song have never taken a disciple in my life. Today I wish to accept you as my only disciple, teaching you everything I know. Do you accept? In the entire command center, one could hear a pin drop. A master of the empire took the initiative to request a disciple. If this were to spread, it would surely shake the entire empire. Countless noble youths with original power were eager to become disciples of the master, but to no avail. Now this tremendous opportunity lay right before Gudong. Chi Miao anxiously watched Gudong, her heart racing with excitement, even more than if she had been confessed to. General Lin and Marquis Ma wore expressions of pride and honor. Their general was truly remarkable. However, Qi Yun and Qi Feng felt a mix of emotions. Jealousy, envy, but more so a sense of helplessness. He was no longer someone they could easily manipulate or win over. Gudong looked at the sincere and hopeful master Song, feeling warmth in his heart. He understood that although he had a system, his understanding and application of original power were still at a very rudimentary exploration stage. Nonetheless, this system truly provided good resources. Having a Grand Master as a teacher personally guiding him would undoubtedly bring countless benefits. He did not hesitate, bowing respectfully to Song in return. Teacher, I disciple Gudong, salute my master. The uttering of master brought a smile to the wrinkled face of Master Song, blooming like a chrysanthemum. Good, good, very good, he exclaimed 3 times, his excitement causing his beard to tremble. In this life, being able to take you as a disciple, I have no regrets. No regrets. If nurtured properly with Gudong's talent, Song believed he could cultivate Gudong to the level of a second-level master of original power within 5 years. He took a step forward, affectionately patting Gudong on the shoulder, his joy overflowing. The people in the command center also regained their senses, their faces revealing expressions of joy and reverence. General Gudong has become a disciple of Master Song. This means that they not only have a commander akin to a war god. In the future, they may also have a new first-level master of original power as their backing. A first-level master of original power is among the very best in the Daqian Empire. General Lin and Marquis Ma exchanged glances, both seeing uncontainable joy in each other's eyes. They had chosen the right person. In this lifetime, they had indeed chosen the right person. Qi Miao was so excited that her eyes began to glisten with tears. She felt happy for Gudong and fortunate for the empire. Only Qi Yun and Qi Feng, the 2 brothers, wore extremely complex expressions. They stepped forward and bowed slightly to Song and Gudong. Forcing a smile, they said, "Congratulations to Master Song for gaining a talented disciple, and congratulations to General Gu for finding a good teacher." Yet even they felt their words lacked sincerity. Song, in a great mood, waved his hand and said, "Same joy, same joy." Then he turned and took Gudong's hand, as if afraid he might run away. Come, my good disciple, don't waste time here," he said. "Follow me, I will take you to my quiet room now and teach you the first lesson of cultivating original power." He could hardly wait a minute longer, eager to impart all his life's knowledge to this ancient millennium prodigy disciple. Gudong felt a mix of amusement and exasperation. Teacher, there are still 2 princes here. He still had important matters to discuss. Them. Seong glanced at Qi Yun and Qi Feng dismissively. Let them wait. Is your cultivation not more important than such a monumental matter? Qi Yun and Qi Feng's faces turned green in an instant. We are still princes. Are we so insignificant in your eyes? What a joke, trying to reason with a protective master of original power. Wasn't that just asking for trouble? Gudong thought for a moment and said to General Lin, General Lin, please entertain the 2 princes for me and show them the battle report of the Qianlong Star. Yes. General Lin immediately took his leave. Gudong then turned to Qi Miao. Princess, this evening I will host a banquet on the Long Yuan to entertain the 2 princes as a way to welcome you. This statement gave the royal family face. It not only provided an opportunity for them to save face, but also indicated that he did not truly wish to sever ties with the royal family. Qi Miao, being quick-witted, immediately understood Gudong's intentions and nodded, saying, All right, I will thank you on behalf of my brothers for your kindness. Only Qi Yun remained stubborn, his expression reluctant, but he did not say anything foolish. He understood that circumstances were stronger than individuals. He still understood the principle that a strong dragon cannot suppress a local snake. Once everything was arranged, Gudong was pulled away by Seong, leaving the command center. Watching the 2 depart, Qi Yun could no longer hold back and whispered to Qi Feng, Second brother, this Gudong has already become a force to be reckoned with. He is likely hard to control now. His tone was filled with reluctance and apprehension. Qi Feng's gaze, however, became unprecedentedly profound. Eldest brother, you are mistaken. He is to be collaborated with. As long as we can stand on the same side as him, the entire empire will belong to us brothers in the future. But if we become his enemies... He did not finish his sentence, but Qi Yun understood the implication. If he allied with other princes, the 2 of them might not be able to contend against them. On the other side, Gudong followed Seong to the quiet room of the master located on the top floor of the command center. The design here was very simple, with almost no extraneous decorations aside from a few meditation cushions. Sit. Seong gestured for Gudong to take a seat. The 2 sat facing each other, and the more Seong looked at his disciple, the more satisfied he became. Good disciple, let me ask you, do you know what original power is? He began his teaching. Gudong thought for a moment, and combining the system's explanation said, Original power is a fundamental energy that constitutes all things in the universe, the source of life, and the embodiment of will. You are correct. What you mentioned is the narrow definition of original power, which is the surface world that all living beings can perceive and touch. Of course, original power also divides into light and dark original power. The teachings of the heavenly principle focus on dark original power, while what we learn is naturally light original power. The vast majority of practitioners of original power spend their entire lives merely picking shells on the beach of the surface world. Only a few extraordinarily gifted individuals can open the door to the inner world and draw power from the void. Only these individuals can be called masters. Kangsong's expression became serious. And you, my good disciple, are different. You were born standing at the threshold of the inner world. Your soul has a natural affinity for original power. You don't even need to draw into the power of that ocean will actively surge towards you. This is why, even though you have only awakened for a few days, you possess such immense original power. Gudong felt a stir in his heart. So that's how it is. Although he was merely a novice in original power at this moment, his actual combat strength was probably not far from that of a master. The system had granted him original power, but had not explained it so thoroughly. It seems that taking this master was indeed a wise choice. However, Kangsong's tone suddenly shifted, becoming incredibly grave. Water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. If you cannot use your strong mental power to control it, in the end you will only be assimilated by it, devoured by it, turning into a monster that knows only destruction. This is also the greatest danger you will face in your future cultivation. He looked at Gudong, speaking each word clearly. Thus, the first thing I will teach you from today is not how to use power, but how to protect your true heart. Gudong felt a jolt in his heart and nodded solemnly. Disciple understands. For an entire afternoon, Gudong spent his time in the meditation room of Master Seong. Master Seong, indeed a second-level master of the empire, had reached an astonishing height in his understanding of the original force. He did not teach Gudong any specific techniques or skills, but rather instructed him on how to feel the flow of the original force, to sense the breath of the universe, to hear the voice within his heart. This sounded mystical, yet for Gudong it felt like opening a door to a new world. With the help of the system, he could quantify all data and control his power with precision. However, Kang Song's teachings made him realize that the original force was not merely data, but a Dao bridge to communicate with the universe. Ding. You have received guidance from Song, the second-level master of the original force, deepening your understanding of the essence of the original force. Your mental strength limit has permanently increased by 5, currently at 200, currently at the level of a first-level apprentice of the original force. Indeed, becoming a disciple was the right choice. This understanding and insight into the fundamental rules is something that cannot be bought with any amount of points. In the evening, Gudong bid farewell to the still unsatisfied Song and returned to his captain's quarters. He changed into a relatively formal commander's attire, preparing to attend the evening banquet. This was not merely a welcoming banquet, but a political showcase. He needed to firmly establish his position in the Qianlong Star and in the future power structure of the empire during this feast. He wanted everyone to understand that he, Gudong, was not a vassal to anyone, but an equal collaborator. Upon returning to Blue Star, Gudong would surely be granted the title of second-level duke, reaching the threshold of second-level nobility. Report General, Her Highness the Princess and the 2 princes have arrived. The guard's announcement came from outside the door. Gudong adjusted his collar and pushed the door open. The banquet hall was set in the observation dining room at the top of the Long Yuan. It featured a massive curved porthole that allowed a view of Qianlong Star and the dazzling starry river. Qi Miao and her 2 brothers had already taken their seats. Qi Miao wore a light purple long dress, looking less like a soldier and more like an elegant royal princess. Qi Yun and Qi Feng had also changed out of their prince attire into more casual clothing. After the baptism of the afternoon, their attitude towards Gudong had undergone a complete transformation. Although Qi Yun still wore a stern expression, his gaze had lost the previous arrogance and scrutiny, replaced by an equal demeanor, even with a hint of caution. Qi Feng, on the other hand, presented a completely different face with a warm smile. Upon seeing Gudong enter, he immediately stood up. General Gu, you have finally arrived. Oh, we've been waiting for you for quite some time. His demeanor was very humble, as if Gudong were the master of the occasion. Gudong smiled and nodded, taking his seat at the head of the table. I apologize for keeping your highnesses waiting. It is my fault. He spoke courteously, but his actions showed no sign of politeness as he directly occupied the most esteemed position. Qi Yun raised an eyebrow, but ultimately said nothing. Having witnessed Gudong's extraordinary prowess with the original force, he had tacitly acknowledged Gudong's qualification to converse and cooperate. General Gu is too polite, Qi Feng said with a smile. You were accompanying Master Song this afternoon, which is of utmost importance. We should wait for you. With just a few words, he defined Gudong's lateness as respect for the master. This not only alleviated the awkwardness, but also elevated Gudong's status without leaving any traces. Gudong thought to himself that this second prince was indeed a formidable character. Compared to his simple-minded elder brother, he seemed much more challenging. Let's begin the feast. Gudong waved his hand. Soon exquisite dishes were served in a flowing manner. Most of these ingredients were produced on Qianlong Star, and after being prepared by the top chefs aboard the Long Yuan, they appeared both delightful and scrumptious. Third sister, you truly suffered this time. During the banquet, Qi Yun looked at Qi Miao with a hint of concern in his tone. The flagship was blown up and fell into enemy territory. Thankfully, you are favored by destiny, and with General Gu's strong assistance, you were able to turn danger into safety. Yes, if it weren't for Gudong, I might never have seen my elder brother and 6th brother again. She finished her drink in one gulp. Gudong, I toast to you. Your life-saving grace, Qi Miao will never forget. Gudong also raised his glass and clinked it with hers. Your Highness exaggerates. Protecting you is my duty. The atmosphere between the two appeared quite harmonious. Qi Feng watched from the side, a flicker of imperceptible light flashing in his eyes. Suddenly he spoke up. Speaking of which, the explosion of the flagship Tianshu was quite peculiar. It turned out that a tactical nuclear bomb had been planted inside. Father has already ordered a thorough investigation to uncover the hidden hand behind this. General Gu, you are at the front line. Do you have any opinions on this matter? He was testing Gudong. He wanted to see how deeply Gudong understood the matter and how he planned to address it. Gudong set down his glass and wiped his mouth with a napkin. I can't say I have an opinion, but I have already caught the person, he said casually. What? Qi Yun and Qi Feng exclaimed in unison. They only knew that Gudong had thwarted the enemy's scheme, but they were unaware that he had already captured the mastermind. The assassin is named Spade, a killer from the Shadow Organization, Gudong said slowly. His accomplice, one named Zhaoing, has already been captured by us. Their mastermind is Luming Yuan, a traitor at the high levels of humanity, and he has already fled. Through interrogation, we have confirmed that the true mastermind behind all this is our old friend, the insect race. He succinctly narrated the conspiracy of the insect race, stirring up war between humans and beasts, assassinating the beast prince to frame humanity, blowing up the human flagship to incite full-scale war. With each statement, Qi Yun and Qi Feng's expressions grew increasingly grim. By the end, their faces only held seriousness and fear. They had not anticipated that in the shadows the Empire had engaged in such perilous confrontations with the insect race, nearly plunging into an abyss of no return. These damned insects. Qi Yun slammed his fist on the table, speaking with hatred. Insidious. Ruthless. They spare no means. Qi Feng appeared more composed, looking at Gudong. He asked, what does General Gu plan to do in response? Since we have already grasped the evidence, shouldn't we immediately make it public and expose the insect race's conspiracy? Gudong shook his head. Now is not the time. We are in the light, while the insect race is in the dark. It is uncertain whether there are any spies infiltrating the upper echelons of the Empire, or even within the royal family. Once we startle the snake, it will only hide deeper. This statement sent a chill down Qi Yun and Qi Feng's spines. They knew very well that what Gudong said was the truth. So your meaning is? Gudong's lips curled into a cold arc. To turn the tables on them. If the insect race wants us to fight the beastmen, then we shall do the opposite. I have already reached a secret agreement with the beastman, King Wanyan Honglai. From today on, the beastman empire will be our ally against the insect race. Allied with the beastmen. This news detonated like a bomb in the minds of the two princes. What kind of joke is this? After all, they were historical enemies with a blood feud spanning hundreds of years. This is impossible. Qi Yun exclaimed, father would never agree to this. He has already agreed. I discussed it with the beastman king before you arrived. Because he understands better than you that the insect race is the true and pressing threat to the Empire. In order to combat this enemy, let alone form an alliance with the beastmen, even if it means trading with the devil, he would do so without hesitation. The atmosphere at the banquet shifted from a tense standoff at the beginning through a shocking reversal midway to an incredibly eerie situation at this moment. The Grand Prince Qi Yun and the Second Prince Qi Feng, two individuals of the highest nobility, now sat across from Gudong, feeling as if they were sitting on needles. They looked at Gudong, their expressions filled with complexity. They could not comprehend. How did things escalate to this point? Gu. General Gu. Ultimately, it was the Grand Prince Qi Yun who managed to speak, struggling to keep his voice steady, though a slight tremor betrayed his inner turmoil. You just said you want to ally with the orcs to combat the insect race. Isn't this a bit rash? The orcs are a century-old enemy of our empire with blood debts that cannot be easily resolved. Qi Yun attempted to regain some ground from a strategic perspective. He wanted to convey to Gudong that even though he had taken a grandmaster as his mentor, he was still rather inexperienced in military and political matters. Gudong raised his glass, gently swirling the crimson liquid within, not even lifting his eyelids. Your Highness the Grand Prince. I thought I had made myself very clear just now. This is not rash, this is the only choice. In the face of the insect race, an enemy capable of destroying us all, the so-called blood debts are merely child's play. One must think on a larger scale. Qi Yun's face turned crimson as he was caught off guard. Gudong's words were essentially a direct accusation of his narrow-mindedness and lack of insight. Impudent. The sixth Prince Qi Feng slammed his hand on the table, standing up abruptly. Gudong, don't think that just because you've taken Master Song as your mentor you can act with such arrogance. My brother kindly reminds you, what kind of attitude is this? Don't forget we represent our father. We represent the Empire. You secretly allied with the orcs, that's treason. Qi Feng hurled the most serious accusation at him. He tried to suppress Gudong using the laws of the Empire. However, Gudong merely raised his head slowly and glanced at him. His gaze was as calm as an unfathomable lake. Your Highness the Sixth Prince. First, please understand, I am not secretly allying with anyone. I am fighting for the Empire to secure a crucial ally. All agreements have been reported to the military department and to His Majesty, and His Majesty has already approved them. Secondly, Gudong's voice paused for a moment, and a chilling aura began to permeate the air. You say I am treasonous. Then may I ask both princes, where were you during the most critical moments of the Qianlong Star conflict? When my soldiers fought valiantly, annihilating the orc army of 500,000, where were you then? Now that the war has ended, you come with the royal fleet, not to offer support, not to provide comfort, but to question my guilt. Do you think this is appropriate? Do you think that the hundreds of thousands of my battle-hardened soldiers will accept this? Every word from Gudong struck the hearts of the two princes like a heavy hammer. Their faces turned pale, lips trembling, and they couldn't utter a single word. Indeed, what right do they have? Just because they are princes? In the face of military achievements, in the presence of absolute power, sometimes the identity of a prince appears so pale and powerless. The entire banquet hall was silent, as if a pin drop could be heard. All eyes were focused on Gudong and the two princes. Even the usually composed Princess Qi Miao was sweating profusely in her palms at this moment. She knew that Gudong was completely and mercilessly tearing apart the last shred of dignity of her two elder brothers. This was to establish his authority. For himself and for his future strategies, he was setting down an undeniable majesty. After a long time, the Grand Prince Qi-yun took a deep breath as if using all his strength before finally sitting down again. His gaze was terrifyingly grim. He knew that today the two brothers had completely lost. Conventional methods, whether it be status or power, could no longer suppress this young man before them. Then, they could only resort to the last and most direct means. To use absolute, irresistible power to make him come to his senses. To make him understand that imperial authority is always imperial authority. Good. Qi-yun squeezed out a word through clenched teeth. General Gu said, "You are right. Our actions this time indeed lacked propriety. However, General Gu, it seems you also overlooked one thing." Qi-yun's lips curled into a cold smirk. "The soldiers under your command are indeed elite warriors, we acknowledge this. Your command abilities are also truly unparalleled in a century, and we admire this as well. But," his voice suddenly rose sharply, "war is not just about command and the courage of soldiers. More importantly, it is about equipment. It is about technology. It is about absolute firepower advantage. Do you know what our royal fleet means?" The second Prince Qifeng also reacted quickly and immediately chimed in. "Let me tell you, Gudong, we have brought 7 ships, a total of 7 divine envoy-class titans. Each one possesses the terrifying power to easily destroy a planet. Your Longyuan ship is merely a larger toy in the presence of the divine envoy-class titans. Your fleet is nothing but a bunch of chickens and dogs in front of the royal fleet." They finally revealed their final trump card. Divine envoy-class titans. The Empire's most elite military force. The sharpest fangs of imperial authority. They believed that in the face of such absolute power, any words or schemes would become utterly meaningless. "Gudong, aren't you arrogant? Aren't you dismissive of others? Then I will show you what true power looks like." Qi-yun stood up looking down at Gudong. "General Gu, you might not fully understand the power of the divine envoy-class titans. Let me explain. To show our respect for General Gus's military achievements and to ensure that our upcoming collaboration can proceed smoothly, we have decided to conduct a small firepower demonstration for you and all the soldiers of Qianlong Star. This will also help you understand whose hands the true power of the Empire lies in." As he spoke, a cruel and gleeful light flickered in his eyes. He intended to make Gudong lower his proud head before the overwhelming force of destruction. Gudong's expression remained unchanged as he heard this. He simply asked indifferently, "Oh, a firepower demonstration. What kind of demonstration?" Seeing Gudong's calm demeanor, Qifeng sneered. "Isn't there a wreck of an Orc Queen-class space fortress that you destroyed in the asteroid belt outside Qianlong Star? We can use it as a target. Let you see with your own eyes how the main cannon of a divine envoy-class titan can completely obliterate it and everything around it." "Oh really?" Gudong's response was so calm that it left both princes in a state of bewilderment. The shock, horror, and even fear they had anticipated did not materialize at all. Gudong's face bore a kind of near indifference. This made Qi-yun and Qifeng feel as though they had struck a punch into cotton, unable to express their frustration. "You don't believe me." Qifeng's temper flared up again. "Do you think we are joking with you? Just wait. I will give the order right now," he said, reaching to activate the personal terminal on his wrist. "Wait a moment." Gudong suddenly interjected. Qifeng paused, looking at him defiantly. "What? Are you scared? Want to beg for mercy? It's too late." Gudong ignored his taunts and turned slowly toward the first Prince Qi-yun. "Your Highness the First Prince, I just want to confirm something. The main cannon of a God Envoy-class Titan consumes an astronomical amount of energy with each shot, doesn't it? Just for a so-called display of firepower to waste it like this, just for me to see. Who is going to foot this bill? Is it going to be counted against the Royal Fleet's military budget, or is it on us, the stationed troops of Qianlong Star?" As these words were spoken, the atmosphere in the banquet hall grew strange once more. Princess Qi Miao couldn't help but lower her head, her lips twitching as she wanted to laugh, but dared not. This line of thought was incredible. They were discussing military threats, and he was talking about money. Yet this question hit the nail on the head. The main cannon of a God Envoy-class Titan was indeed a money-eating beast. Each charge and shot consumed enough resources to produce 3 frigates. If this expense fell on the royal fleet, they would certainly be impeached upon returning, with the charge of extravagance and waste of national resources unavoidable. But if the stationed troops of Qianlong Star had to pay, would that not mean admitting they had come to extort? Qi-yun's face instantly turned the color of liver. He never expected Gudong would approach him from this angle. How was he supposed to respond? Say they would pay for it themselves. He couldn't afford to lose face. Say they would cover it. That was even less possible. "You? Qi Yun pointed at Gudong, stuttering for a long time without uttering a complete sentence. Gudong, Qi Feng shouted angrily. Stop messing around here. This is a military operation, not a business deal. The display of imperial military power is to deter the wicked and assert our national prestige. What does this little expense matter? Gudong nodded at this, wearing an expression of I see now. Oh, I understand. So this expense is coming from both of your highnesses' pockets for the sake of national concern. That truly is commendable. Since that's the case, let's begin. I am also very eager to see just how powerful a God Envoy-class Titan truly is. This time, even Master Seong, who always maintained a serious demeanor, couldn't help but laugh out loud. He looked at his newly accepted disciple more and more pleased. Courageous and resourceful with extraordinary talent, and still able to infuriate others. He was simply a treasure. Qi Yun and Qi Feng were so furious they felt like they might explode. They felt like two clowns toyed with by Gudong at will. Good, good, good. Qi Yun repeated the word good 3 times, his eyes filled with a murderous intent that nearly solidified. Gudong, you have guts. I hope you can still laugh later. He ceased the banter, directly activating his personal terminal to connect with the bridge of the Royal Fleet flagship Haoyan. This is Qi Yun. Order the God Envoy-class Titan Tianfa to immediately proceed to coordinates XXX. Target the abandoned Orc Queen-class space fortress. Use the main cannon to completely erase it from this universe. Understood, Your Highness. A calm and powerful voice came from the communicator. Qi Yun turned off the communication, setting his gaze firmly on Gudong. General Gu, please. Let us go to the bridge and enjoy this spectacle together. The atmosphere was tense on the bridge of the Longyuan. A gigantic holographic star map occupied the center of the bridge. All eyes were focused on the large light point representing the Tianfa Titan, which was slowly moving on the star map. Qi Yun and Qi Feng stood on one side of the star map, their faces displaying unabashed arrogance and cold smiles. They intended to showcase royal power before Gudong and all his subordinates. They wanted those present to understand who the true masters of this starry sky were. Gudong stood calmly on the opposite side, accompanied by Master Seong and Princess Qi Miao. His expression remained indifferent, as if what was about to unfold was not a demonstration of world-shattering power, but rather a movie whose ending he had already seen. Report. The Tianfa has reached the designated position. The main cannon is charging. Energy readings. 1%, 3%, 6%, 17%, 99%. Charging complete. Ready to fire. The cold electronic prompt echoed within the bridge. Just the charging took nearly 20 minutes. At this time, the big mushroom was already shining brilliantly. Even Gudong, who was 1.0 kilometers away, could see its brilliance. Qi Yun's lips curled wider. He looked at Gudong, his tone filled with condescension. General Gu, take a good look. This is the power of a god envoy. Fire. With his order, the bow of the Tianfa suddenly ignited with a brilliance more dazzling than a star. The light was so blinding that everyone instinctively squinted their eyes. Then a thick, unimaginable golden energy beam tore through the dark universe. It traversed a great distance, striking the massive remains of the Orc Queen-class space fortress floating in the asteroid belt with near-light speed. There was no sound, no explosion, only a dead silence, a pure, all-consuming white light. When the white light dissipated, the once troublesome Orc Queen-class fortress for the Third Fleet was directly pierced by the laser, leaving a huge void with a radius of about 2 kilometers in its center. It was not shattered into pieces. The steel in the center had been completely vaporized. The entire bridge fell into silence. All the officers and soldiers on the Longyuan gaped their mouths agape in shock. They had fought countless fierce battles and seen various weapons. However, they had never witnessed a scene where a single shot could directly penetrate a space fortress. This exceeded their understanding of weaponry. This was simply the power of a god. Princess Qi Miao's complexion also turned somewhat pale. Although she knew the God Envoy-class Titan was powerful, witnessing this force firsthand left her deeply shaken. Qi Yun and Qi Feng observed the reactions of everyone around them, their faces brimming with overwhelming pride. They turned to look at Gudong with the posture of victors. They anticipated seeing the same shock and fear reflected on Gudong's face. However, they were disappointed. Gudong's expression remained as calm as ever. He even gently shook his head as if lamenting something. Impossible. Qi Feng's heart roared frantically. How could he have no reaction at all? This is unscientific. Is he blind or something? Qi Yun's heart also sank. He suppressed his inner unease and coldly asked, General Gu, how do you feel? This is the strength of our royal fleet. Do you still think you are qualified to negotiate terms with us? Finally, Gudong reacted. He turned his head to look at Qi Yun and then uttered a statement that nearly dropped everyone's jaws. The power is decent. It's just too wasteful. What did you say? The second prince, Feng, exploded like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Are you blind? That shot directly pierced the target. Are you calling this a lack of accuracy? He was practically driven mad with rage. It's like you were driving the top-tier sports car, showcasing a perfect drift in front of others only for them to say that your wheels are a bit crooked. This is nitpicking. This is a blatant humiliation. The face of the eldest prince, Qi Yun, turned as dark as a storm cloud. He glared fiercely at Gudong, trying to find any trace of pretense on his face. But he failed. Gudong's eyes were clear and serene, showing no signs of artifice. He truly believed that the shot was slightly off target. Gudong, you'd better give me a reasonable explanation. Qi Yun's voice was cold as ice. Otherwise, don't blame me for not giving Master Song any face. Facing the murderous glares of the two princes, Gudong appeared quite innocent. I'm just speaking the truth. He pointed to the location of the Ant Queen level fortress on the holographic star map. Look here. That shot indeed pierced the fortress. However, the energy dispersion was too severe. The main cannon's energy hit the core point, deviating at least 300 meters from the fortress' original core. Thus, a significant portion of the energy was wasted on destroying the intermediate asteroids. If it had been more precise, directly hitting the original core, it could have ignited the residual energy within. Then only 4/5 of the energy just now would have been needed to achieve the same, if not better effect. Isn't this a lack of accuracy and a waste? Gudong analyzed seriously. The people on the bridge were left stunned. They only saw the world-destroying power. Who would think about energy dispersion or core deviation? In their eyes, hitting the target and destroying it was impressive. But hearing Gudong's explanation, it seemed there was indeed some truth to it. Using less energy to achieve better results. Isn't that the ultimate goal of military operations? The brothers Qi Yun and Qi Feng were also taken aback by Gudong's words. They opened their mouths to refute, but found themselves at a loss for words. Because what Gudong spoke of was a technical issue. They were princes, politicians, but they weren't top-tier weapon experts. You're talking nonsense. After a long pause, Qi Feng could only muster this pale and powerless retort. The main cannon of the Divine Envoy-level Titan is the pinnacle of the Empire's technological achievements. How could there be any deviation? You're clearly nitpicking. Gudong chuckled upon hearing this. Whether I'm talking nonsense, you can ask the fire control officer of the Heaven's Punishment ship. Ask him if the hit deviation from that shot was around 300 meters. And by the way, also ask him if his fire control system needs an upgrade. This kind of old relic should be retired. Qi Feng trembled with anger. He truly wanted to order the Heaven's Punishment to turn its cannon and vaporize the Long Yuan before him. But he didn't dare. Not to mention that Gudong was now a disciple of Master Song. Just the words Gudong had said made him feel uneasy. What if what Gudong said was true? Then their royal fleet would be humiliated beyond belief. Enough. The eldest prince, Qi Yun, finally spoke up, stopping his brother's outburst. He looked deeply at Gudong, his eyes filled with wariness. He realized that he had underestimated this young man from the very beginning. This Gudong was not only brave and cunning, but also ruthlessly knowledgeable about the Empire's top weapon technology. He could even discern its flaws at a glance. Is he even human? What on earth is his background? How could a commander from a border star system understand so much? For the first time, Qi Yun felt genuine heartfelt fear towards Gudong. He realized that trying to intimidate Gudong with force would likely be futile. This guy is simply a monster. Good, very good. Qi Yun retracted all arrogance and anger, forcing a smile that was even uglier than crying. General Gu is indeed a dragon among men, possessing extraordinary insight. This display of firepower seems to have been a display of skill, causing General Gu to laugh at our clumsiness. He actually conceded. Before everyone, he bowed to Gudong. This scene left all present deeply shocked. They knew that from this moment on, the situation on Qianlong Star and even the future landscape of the entire empire would change drastically because of the name Gudong. Seeing this, Gudong also decided to stop while he was ahead. He didn't truly want to tear his face with the two princes. He just wanted them to understand who was in charge here. Now the goal had been achieved. Your Highness, the eldest prince is being too modest. The Divine Envoy-level Titan, as expected, is an imperial heavy weapon, and its power is indeed astonishing. I just have a personal pursuit for perfection. Gudong provided them a way out. Qi Yun's expression improved just a little. So regarding the matter of allying with the orcs, he still wanted to make a last-ditch effort. Gudong waved his hand, directly interrupting him. I've already made my decision on this matter. Besides, His Majesty has already agreed. If the two princes really want to help the Empire, please cooperate fully with me. After all, the order given to you by our father is assist, and not take over right. Gudong once again referenced that order. This was his imperial sword. The corners of Qi Yun's eyes twitched violently. He knew he was completely out of options. On Qianlong Star, he had completely lost the initiative. Good. He squeezed out a word between clenched teeth. We will fully assist General Gu. That's good. Gudong nodded in satisfaction. Then he turned his gaze to Marquis Ma beside him. By the way, where is that female spy named Zhao Ying who was captured from the Tianshu ship? Marquis Ma immediately stood at attention and replied. Report, General. She is detained in the special interrogation room of the Long Yuan, personally guarded by Master Kang Song's disciple. There is no chance of failure. Very good. A glint of coldness flashed in Gudong's eyes. Since the two princes are so free, why not accompany me to interrogate this female spy? I feel that she hides quite a few interesting secrets. Perhaps we can catch the mastermind behind provoking this war in one fell swoop. He looked at the two princes, smiling like a fox ready to pounce. What do you think, your highnesses? Qi Yun and Qi Feng exchanged glances, both finding a hint of helplessness in each other's eyes. They knew Gudong was changing the subject while also demonstrating what he was about to do next. They had completely fallen from the role of player to mere spectators. All right, we will accompany General Gu to have a look. Qi Yun's voice was filled with bitterness. The special interrogation room. The cold metallic walls emanate a chilling aura. The room is empty save for an alloy chair fixed in the center of the floor. Zhao Ying, codenamed Nightingale, is tightly bound to this chair. She wears a white prison uniform, her hair slightly disheveled from the previous battle. Yet her gaze remains filled with defiance and coldness. Outside the one-way observation window of the interrogation room, Gudong Master, Sangsong Princess Chimia, and the two visibly troubled princes stand quietly. Is this her? The second prince, Qifeng, sneered slightly, his tone laced with disdain. She doesn't seem that impressive at all. What can a weak woman stir up? To him, this so-called spy is merely an inconsequential character. The true situation must be controlled by these powerful figures who hold great authority. Gudong ignored him and simply asked, Have you interrogated her? What did she confess? An officer in charge of the interrogation stepped forward, immediately responding respectfully. Report, General. A preliminary interrogation has been conducted. However, this woman's mouth is very stubborn as she refuses to say anything. We have used standard interrogation methods, but they have yielded little results. Her willpower is remarkably strong. Oh, Gudong raised an eyebrow slightly. He scrutinized Zhao Ying through the observation window. This woman is indeed extraordinary. She navigates adeptly between the imperial nobility and the insectoid spies. Her psychological resilience is undoubtedly top tier. Let me give it a try. Master Sangsong suddenly spoke up. He gazed at Zhao Ying, a flicker of complex emotions passing through his eyes. This woman carries the energy fluctuations of the insectoids, and the insectoids indirectly caused the death of his close friend Li Lu. He has ample reason to make this woman experience what it truly means to suffer a fate worse than death. Master, are you going to take matters into your own hands? The eldest prince, Qi Yun, brightened at the prospect. If Master Sangsong were to intervene, that would be the best scenario. The methods of a master of primordial energy are unpredictable. He does not believe this woman can withstand the questioning of a master. However, Gudong shook his head. Master, there's no need. To deal with her, you don't need to personally intervene. Moreover, using force, even if we extract some information, it would be difficult to determine its authenticity. What if she deliberately provides false information to lead us into a trap? That would be counterproductive. Gudong's considerations run deeper. What he wants is not a coerced confession. He wants Zhao Ying to willingly divulge everything she knows. Oh, Master Sangsong glanced at him in surprise. What good method do you have? Qifeng interjected sarcastically. What other method could there be? Isn't it just the usual harsh torture? General Gu is ruthless. He's the best at this kind of thing. Gudong seemed not to notice his mockery, merely smiling. Different people require different methods to deal with. To tackle a woman who thinks herself clever, sometimes psychological manipulation is far more effective than brute force. As he spoke, he pushed open the door to the interrogation room and walked directly inside. Chimia and the two princes hesitated for a moment before following him in. They were all curious about what psychological manipulation Gudong intended to use against this stubborn female spy. Master Sangsong stood still, watching with keen interest without moving. He trusts his disciple. Gudong's entrance caused Zhao Ying, who had been sitting quietly, to stiffen suddenly. She raised her head, fixing a gaze filled with hatred and vigilance upon Gudong. It is this man. He is the one who thwarted the master's entire plan. It is he who has caused her to become a prisoner. Miss Zhao Ying, we meet at last. Gudong pulled over a chair and casually sat down opposite Zhao Ying. Or should I call you Nightingale? Zhao Ying's pupils constricted suddenly, but she quickly regained her composure and replied coldly. I don't know what you're talking about. My name is Zhao Ying, the daughter of Duke Zhao Wuchen of the Great Qin Empire. Are you trying to rebel by arresting nobles without reason? She immediately invoked her noble identity, attempting to pressure Gudong. This tactic might work against an ordinary officer. But against Gudong? Heh, Gudong chuckled. Duke Zhao Wuchen. Of course I know. He is indeed a significant figure. However, Gudong's tone shifted, leaning slightly forward, locking his gaze onto Zhao Ying's eyes. What do you think his expression would be when Duke Zhao Wuchen learns that his beloved daughter is actually a spy working for the insectoids? Do you think that when the entire empire learns that the prestigious Zhao family has produced a traitor who colludes with the enemy, your family's century-old reputation would be destroyed in an instant? What about the 412 members of the Zhao family? Would they be doomed? Do you think the forces that have depended on the Zhao family would immediately distance themselves from you, or even turn against you? Every word from Gudong is like a sharp knife precisely stabbing at Zhao Ying's most vulnerable spots. Her complexion instantly turned pale. She can be unafraid of death, unafraid of suffering, but she cannot afford to disregard her family. It is the place where she grew up, the source of all her glory and pride. She cannot imagine the terrifying consequences if her family were to be shamed or even destroyed because of her. You are talking nonsense. Her voice began to tremble. I am not a spy. You are slandering me. Slander. Gudong smiled, snapping his fingers. A clear video was instantly projected onto the wall behind him. The video depicted her and Spade on the Tianshu attempting to assassinate Wan Yin Tian, capturing their entire dialogue clearly. The evidence is irrefutable. Zhao Ying watched the video as if all her strength had been drained away. She knew it was over for her. Completely over. How about it, Miss Zhao? Gudong's voice like a devil's whisper echoed in her ears. Now do you still think I am slandering you? Zhao Ying gritted her teeth, looking at Gudong in despair. What do you want from me? Very simple. I need you to tell me everything you know about the insectoids, about your superiors, and all their plans. As long as you cooperate, I can assure you that you will only serve 100 years in prison, and there will still be 50 years left for you afterwards. How does that sound? Your family will not be implicated in any way. What do you think of this deal? So will you speak or not? Gudong's conditions were like a ray of light piercing through Zhao Ying's dark and desperate heart. How could this be possible? Zhao Ying's first reaction was disbelief. She felt that this must be Gudong's trap, a lie meant to trick her into speaking. Do you think I would believe you? On what grounds can you protect me? I am guilty of treason, a capital offense. On what grounds can you protect my family? Just you, a commander on the border, a marquis of the Empire's last rank, or your mother, a second-level duke far away in the Scorpion Star domain. If it were her, there might be a chance. But she is the daughter of the Northern Town King. Now widowed, how could she not care for her family? If she truly cared for you, she would have rushed back from the front lines of the ferry seat to save you. She tried to use this to mask her inner turmoil. Gudong, upon hearing this, was not angry, merely smiling faintly. It seems, Miss Zhao, that you do not know me very well. He turned his head and glanced at the door. Princess Qi Miao, His Highness the First Prince, His Highness the Second Prince. Please introduce my identity to Miss Zhao, and let her understand how much weight my words carry. The three of them were momentarily stunned. They did not expect Gudong to suddenly pass the ball to them. Qi Miao reacted first, taking a deep breath and stepping forward. Zhao Ying. Her voice was cold and authoritative. Listen carefully. The person standing in front of you, General Gudong, is not just someone who has achieved great merit. He is also the Imperial Grandmaster Lord Kangsong's only direct disciple. This statement struck Zhao Ying's mind like a thunderclap. Her eyes widened in disbelief, her face filled with incredulity. Lord Sangsong, his only direct disciple. How could this be possible? Who is Lord Sangsong? He was the one who saved him from the wreckage of the crashed spaceship. For 100 years, he had never taken any disciples. How could this Gudong? She instinctively turned her gaze towards the first and second princes, hoping to see a denial on their faces. However, what she saw were two faces that looked worse than crying. Qi Yun and Qi Feng, though they hated Gudong to the bone, dared not lie on this matter. Qi Yun nodded with difficulty, his voice dry, as he said, Your Highness the Princess is correct. General Gu is indeed a disciple of Lord Sangsong. With the confirmation from the princes, Zhao Ying's psychological defenses crumbled instantly. She finally understood why Gudong dared to say such things. A disciple of Lord Sangsong. What a transcendent status this identity held in the empire. Let alone protecting a mere duke's daughter like her, even trying to protect a prince guilty of a capital offense would not be a difficult task. What do you think, Miss Zhao? Gudong's voice rang out again. Do you still doubt my abilities? Zhao Ying fell silent. Her lips quivered slightly. Internally, she was in a battle of conscience. On one side was the master she had once sworn allegiance to, the cause she had once firmly believed in. On the other side were her family, her own life, and even a wide path to glory. How should she choose? She did not know. Gudong watched her struggle, deciding to add fuel to the fire. Miss Zhao, I know what you are thinking. You may still harbor illusions about your master. You think he will come to save you. Don't be foolish. You are merely a pawn in his hands. Now you have lost your purpose as a pawn and have even become a nuisance. Do you think he would risk exposure and break into my dragon abyss for a nuisance? Let me tell you the answer. He won't. He likely considers you a dead person by now. He may even be relieved that I captured you rather than you falling into the hands of the Imperial Security Bureau, because he knows that once you fall into their hands, they have ways to make you reveal all your secrets. And in my hands, at least you still have the option of choice. You. Zhaoying suddenly raised her head, sharply staring intently at Gudong. Gudong's words pierced through her last shred of illusion like a sharp knife. Indeed, I am merely a pawn that can be discarded at any moment. From the moment she failed her mission and was captured alive, her fate was sealed. In the eyes of her master, she was already a dead person. Despair, endless despair, instantly engulfed her. Her body began to tremble uncontrollably. Tears streamed down her cheeks like beads from a broken string. I will talk. She finally broke down. I will say everything. Please save my family. Save me. She grasped at the last straw like a drowning person, issuing a humble plea to Gudong. Chi Miao and the two princes at the door watched this scene, feeling a profound shock. They did not expect Gudong to truly bring this resolute female spy to her knees without bloodshed, completely collapsing her will. This manipulation of the human heart was more terrifying than any torture. They looked at Gudong's back, their eyes filled with unprecedented awe. Gudong nodded in satisfaction. He knew that the answers he wanted were about to be within reach. Very well. Let's start with your superior. His name, identity, and where he is now. Zhaoying took a deep breath, her voice trembling as she spoke a name that shocked everyone present. My superior is Lu Mingyuan. He was once the most trusted human advisor under Wan Yanhonglai of the Orc Empire. Now he should be taking his last loyal followers aboard a ship disguised as a merchant vessel heading to a secret star domain codenamed Haven. He is going there to rendezvous with a fleet of insectoid ships. What? This is the Empire's greatest traitor. He is actually the head of the insectoids hidden among the high ranks of the Orc Empire. This news was simply explosive. Was it just a mission impossible? Gudong's eyes lit up. Lu Mingyuan. Haven. Insectoid fleet. A clear chain of clues finally appeared before him. Coordinates. Gudong's voice was undeniable. Tell me the exact coordinates of Haven. Zhaoying did not hesitate for a moment and immediately reported a complex set of star domain coordinates. The officer behind Gudong quickly recorded and pinpointed the location on the tactical tablet. Report, General. The coordinates have been confirmed. They are located within a nebula 47 light-years away from us. It will take approximately 5 days of standard travel from our current position. The officer's voice carried a hint of excitement. Moreover, the movement speed of the Zerg fleet is slow, and they will certainly take some time to reach Lu Mingyuan and the others. Furthermore, this location is within the actual control area of the orcs. It will undoubtedly be exceedingly difficult for them to enter now. Therefore, Lu Mingyuan is surely still there waiting. Lu Mingyuan. Gudong murmured the name softly, his eyes gleaming with cold light. This guy has hidden himself quite deeply. First, he defected from the Empire to join the orcs. Then over there, he transformed into a spy for the Zerg. He is simply a traitor serving 3 different families. Such a person must not be spared. How many people did he take with him? Do you know the type and firepower configuration of the spacecraft? Gudong continued to press for answers. He took his last group, about 100 people. All of them are death warriors, Zhaoying recalled with difficulty. The spacecraft is a heavily modified Pioneer-class heavy freighter. It looks no different from an ordinary merchant ship on the outside, but inside it is equipped with military-grade shields and engines, and it also hides 8 small laser cannons and 2 torpedo launchers. Its firepower is comparable to that of a light destroyer. Most importantly, their ship is equipped with a smuggler's cloaking device that can mask conventional jump tracking. Good. Gudong nodded. The intelligence is very detailed. It seems that Zhaoying holds a significant position within Lu Mingyuan's organization. When he heads to the hive, besides joining forces with the Zerg fleet, does he have any other tasks? Yes. A flicker of fear crossed Zhaoying's eyes. Master. Lu Mingyuan said this meeting is a summons from the Zerg's young clan leader. He will report all actions taken on Qianlong Star to the Queen and will accept a new, even more important task. What task? I don't know. Zhaoying shook her head. The level of this task is too high, only Lu Mingyuan knows. However, I once inadvertently heard him mention that this task is related to the Empire's source of primal energy. Source of primal energy. The silent master Seong, who had been standing by the door, suddenly changed his expression. He stepped into the interrogation room and approached, Zhaoying, a terrifying aura instantly enveloping the entire room. Are you certain you heard the word source of primal energy? Master Kangsong's voice was filled with unprecedented gravity. Zhaoying trembled in fear, nearly fainting. Yes, master. I am sure. She stammered in response. What are they trying to do? Anger surged in Master Kang Song's eyes. The source of primal energy is the Empire's highest secret. It is the foundation that allows the Empire to stand tall among the cosmic races. The Zerg, how dare they set their sights on the source of primal energy? This has already touched the Empire's bottom line. Gudong's heart also jolted. He himself is the possessor of primal energy. Could it be that the Zerg's target is himself? No, that's not right. They probably still don't know of his existence. Regardless of which possibility, it indicates one thing. The Zerg schemes are far greater than imagined. Master, please don't get too agitated. Gudong soothed the emotionally charged Master Tsong. Then he turned his attention back to Zhao Ying. One last question. When will Lu Mingyuan likely arrive at the hive? According to their travel speed, it will take about another 20 days. Zhao Ying calculated and provided an approximate time. 20 days. Gudong's eyes narrowed. Time is of the essence. He must intercept Lu Mingyuan before he arrives. Or he must capture them all in one sweep when he joins forces with the Zerg fleet. All right, I understand now. Gudong stood up. He had obtained all the intelligence he desired. Take her down and keep a close watch on her. Remember what I promised you. As long as you continue to cooperate, your family will be safe. Thank you, General. Thank you, General. Zhao Ying said, gratefully, tears streaming down her face. Gudong ignored her further and turned to leave the interrogation room. As soon as he stepped out, he immediately issued orders. Marquis Ma. Yes. Immediately gather all fleet senior officers and convene a high-level military meeting. Understood. Generally. Here. Order all warships to begin energy and supply replenishment immediately. Repair all weapon systems and jump engines. In 3 hours, I want my fleet to be ready to depart at any moment. Yes. Also, Gudong's gaze swept over everyone present, finally landing on Qi Yun and Qi Feng's faces. From now on, the Qianlong star system will be under the highest military control. All communications will be blocked. No ships are allowed to enter or exit without permission. I want to turn this place into a fortress. Until our operation is over, I do not want any information about us to leak out. Gudong's orders were decisive and resolute. The entire bridge of the Longyuan instantly transformed into a high-speed operating war machine. Qi Yun and Qi Feng looked at the scene before them, unable to utter a single word. This man was born for war. Gu. General Gu. The Crown Prince Qi Yun spoke laboriously. Are you preparing to intercept Lu Mingyuan? No. Gudong shook his head, a cold smile curling at the corners of his mouth. Intercepting him would be too lenient for him. What I want is to wipe them out along with the Zerg fleet that comes to support him from this universe. His voice was not loud, but the killing intent contained within made everyone present shiver in fear. But that is the Zerg fleet. The second prince, Qi Feng, couldn't help but speak up. We know nothing about their numbers or scale. Just one Zerg mothership is 20 kilometers long. If it weren't for the presence of the super space fortress in the front line and the super large caliber plasma ion cannons on that planet, we would find it extremely difficult to defeat them. Isn't it too risky to charge and recklessly? Risky? Gudong glanced at him and laughed. Your Highness, the second prince, in war, how can one avoid risks? Besides, I don't believe the Zerg would dare send out a Zerg mothership to pick up a spy. Moreover, his gaze turned once more toward that distant, unfamiliar star domain. I have your 7 divine envoy-class titans assisting. A heavily modified Pioneer-class heavy freighter quietly navigated through the pitch-black universe. Its name was the Hope, a name filled with irony. At this moment, the atmosphere on the bridge of the Hope was charged with uncontrollable excitement and fervor. Lu Mingyuan, the greatest traitor of the Empire, stood before the massive viewport, holding a glass of red wine and admiring the stars whizzing past outside. His face bore a sickly flush, and his eyes revealed an uncontainable sense of pride and ambition. Ha ha! He suddenly chuckled softly. The laughter grew louder, eventually transforming into unrestrained guffaws. I did it. I finally succeeded. Qi Yaodian, you foolish mortals. Did you think you won? You were wrong. Gravely wrong. You are merely the most perfect sacrifices I will offer to Her Majesty the Queen. He raised his glass and drank the crimson liquid in one gulp. Behind him stood his most loyal subordinates, their faces similarly reflecting fervent admiration. Congratulations, my lord. A subordinate said obsequiously, although we suffered heavy losses in the Battle of the Hidden Dragon Star, we successfully dragged both humanity and the orcs, our greatest obstacles, into the quagmire of war. My lord's strategic planning and decisive victories will surely earn Her Majesty's generous rewards. Exactly. Another subordinate chimed in, as long as my lord reports this victory to Her Majesty and presents the grand gift you have prepared, my lord will surely become Her Majesty's most favored servant. At that time, our entire insect race will dominate the universe under your leadership. Ha ha. Lu Mingyuan felt even more elated listening to his subordinate's flattery. He turned around looking at the loyal followers who had stood by him for many years and nodded with satisfaction. You are not wrong. Although we lost the important chess piece of the orcs this time, we have also achieved our strategic objectives. Humanity and the orcs have been severely weakened after this battle, and they will be unable to stop our race's advance in the short term. More importantly, a glimmer of greed flashed in his eyes. I have obtained something even more valuable than the entire orc empire. As he spoke, he carefully took out a specially designed metal box from his bosom. The box opened, revealing a vial that emitted a ghostly blue light. The liquid seemed alive, slowly flowing within the test tube, exuding a mysterious and powerful aura. This is... The subordinates looked at the vial with puzzled expressions. This is something I extracted from a previous human wielder of the Death Force. Lu Mingjiwan's face revealed an obsessive expression. I have studied it for a long time and finally discovered that this is the legendary original gene liquid of the Mystic Land original insect that can cultivate original force. What? The subordinates exclaimed in shock. They naturally understood what these 4 words meant. That was the original force talent that all wielders of original force yearned for. Possessing it was akin to holding the ticket to the realm of original force. My lord, are you saying? One subordinate asked with a trembling voice. Exactly, Lu Mingyuan replied fervently. As long as we present this gene liquid to Her Majesty will be able to decipher the secrets of the Mystic Land original insect. At that time, our race will be able to mass-produce countless powerful warriors with the original force talent. Who in the universe could withstand our mighty army? His words plunged all the subordinates into ecstatic joy. They seemed to envision the glorious sight of the insect race's banners flying in every corner of the universe. My lord is brilliant. Long live Her Majesty. The crowd shouted in unison, their voices nearly overwhelming the entire bridge. Lu Mingyuan watched everything with satisfaction. He carefully put the metal box away. This was his greatest trump card. It was also his greatest assurance that allowed him to dare to meet the queen. Report, my lord. Just then the radar officer's voice suddenly rang out. Ahead, we have entered the outer region of the star domain. We have received a guiding signal from the Leviathan No. 31 fleet. Good. A glint of excitement flashed in Lu Mingyuan's eyes. The Leviathan series fleet. That is the most elite direct fleet under Her Majesty. Composed of 3 biological battleship motherships and nearly 1,000 various insect race warships. Her Majesty actually dispatched such a powerful fleet to welcome him. This was enough to show Her Majesty's importance to him. Full speed ahead. Lu Mingyuan commanded, filled with ambition. Let us go and embrace the glory that belongs to us. Yes, the engines of the Hope roared to full power, transforming into a streak of light as it dashed toward the dark matter nebula. Soon they passed through the outer layer of the nebula. The sight before them made everyone on the bridge gasp in astonishment. In the center of the nebula floated an unimaginably massive fleet. It was a terrifying legion composed of countless grim, distorted battleships with a biological texture. Their numbers were in the thousands, densely packed, blotting out the stars. At the very center of the fleet was a biological battleship larger than the Queen Ant Fortress, reminiscent of an ancient behemoth. It was the mothership of the insect nest. Seeing this fleet, Lu Mingyuan's subordinates felt an instinctive shiver of awe and respect. This was the formidable might of their insect race. Against such power, the steel clumps of humanity appeared so small and ridiculous. Lu Mingyuan's heart was also filled with excitement. He adjusted his collar, preparing to make a communication request. However, at that moment, an anomaly suddenly occurred. Alarm! Alarm! Detected extremely high-intensity spatial fluctuations. On our right flank, there are a large number of unidentified fleets making spatial jumps. The shrill alarm echoed throughout the entire bridge. The smile on Lu Mingyuan's face abruptly froze. Unidentified fleets. This was the insect race's secret base. How could there be unidentified fleets here? He suddenly turned his head to look out the right viewport. He saw the pitch-black universe space suddenly being torn apart by an invisible giant hand, creating enormous rifts. Then 1 ship, 10 ships, 100 ships, one after another, steel warships adorned with the royal emblem of the great Qian Empire, exuding a chilling aura of slaughter, surged like demons from hell through the spatial rifts. At the forefront of these warships were 7 titans towering like mountains, emanating an aura of destruction and doom. The Divine Messenger class titans. Lu Mingyuan's pupils suddenly contracted to the extreme. The Imperial Royal Fleet. How could they be here? His mind went blank. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Lu Mingyuan screamed in disbelief, the color draining from his face. He could not comprehend the scene unfolding before him. The Imperial Royal Fleet, why would it appear here? This is the Hive, one of the most covert strongholds the insect race has embedded within the orc and actual control zones. The coordinates are top secret aside from the Queen and his core subordinates, no one else knows. Moreover, their Hope ship was equipped with the most advanced spatial disruptor capable of shielding against all conventional tracking. How on earth did they find us? A terrifying thought flashed through his mind. Could it be that the wretched Zhaoying has betrayed me? Zhaoying is his most loyal dog. Lu Mingyuan had used his son to bind Zhaoying firmly to his ship. Furthermore, had undergone the harshest training. Even a master of force might not be able to make her yield. Besides, she should have already been dealt with by that madman Spader after completing the mission. How could a dead person leak information? At this moment, he still did not know that Spader's mission had already failed. Hearing the explosion of the Tian Shu, he thought the mission had been completed. Master, what should we do now? The subordinate beside him was utterly terrified, his voice trembling. The sight before them was simply too frightening. 7 divine emissary-class titans. That is one of the Empire's top strategic weapons. Just one would be enough to obliterate their little Hope ship 1,000 times over. Now all 7 have emerged. And there are also 3 major royal fleets, totaling nearly 1,000 warships. What are we panicking for? Lu Mingyuan forced himself to calm down and shouted sternly. We have the Leviathan fleet. We have the elite of Her Majesty the Queen. 7 titans are nothing. Send my orders. Immediately request aid from the Leviathan fleet. Tell them we are under ambush by the human fleet. He tried to stabilize the morale of the troops. In his view, although the appearance of the human fleet was very strange, they were not without the capability to fight. The Leviathan fleet is one of the strongest fleets of the insect race. Even if we can't defeat the 7 titans, we should still be able to hold them off and escape with our little ship. However, as soon as his words fell, the communications officer delivered a message that plunged him into an ice pit. Master, Leviathan no. 31 fleet. They are not responding. What a... Lu Mingyuan turned sharply, glaring at the communications officer. How is that possible? They are right in front of us. It's true, Master. The communications officer was nearly in tears. Our communications have vanished without a trace. It's as if they didn't see us at all. Lu Mingyuan followed the officer's gaze once again, looking at the enormous insect fleet. Indeed, the fleet remained quietly suspended in place, showing no signs of movement. It was as if the Imperial Royal Fleet that had suddenly appeared before them was merely a wisp of air. This bizarre scene caused Lu Mingyuan's heart to sink little by little. An unprecedented chill surged from his feet to the crown of his head. He realized that the situation might be far worse than he had imagined. Just then, an even more terrifying event occurred. Alert! Detecting again super large-scale spatial fluctuations. The intensity of the fluctuations is 7 or 8 times greater than before. No, it's 10 times. My heavens! What is this thing? The radar officer's voice had completely changed, filled with utter fear and disbelief. On the entire bridge, everyone instinctively turned their gazes towards the direction pointed out by the radar officer. That was the empty cosmic space between the Imperial fleet and the insect fleet. Suddenly, that space began to violently distort and boil like the surface of water. A massive black vortex too large to describe appeared out of nowhere. At the center of the vortex was a darkness so deep it seemed capable of swallowing everything. Then a colossal object slowly began to emerge from that dark whirlpool. It was an indescribably huge metallic construct. It was so enormous that even the divine emissary-class titans looked like a stumbling infant before it. It took on a shape close to a perfect circle with a diameter likely exceeding 300 kilometers. Its surface was covered with dense city-like structures and countless cannon ports of various sizes. It resembled a steel planet floating in the universe. When it fully emerged from the spatial vortex, the entire starry sky seemed to dim. All who saw it, whether Lu Mingyuan's subordinates or the soldiers within the distant Imperial fleet, felt a sense of insignificance and suffocation that emanated from the depths of their souls. In the center of this steel continent, there was a gigantic Chinese character painted in bright red. Ming, this is... Lu Mingyuan stared at the enormous character Ming, utterly stunned. His brain had completely crashed. What is this thing? In the entire universe, perhaps only the Dead Star and super fortress of Daqian could rival it. A diameter of 300 kilometers. What kind of cosmic joke is this? The Imperial database contains no records of such a level of warship. Where on earth did this thing come from? And why is there a character Ming written on it? Could it be? A ridiculously absurd thought uncontrollably surfaced from his heart. However, he no longer had time to think, because at the moment that space fortress appeared, another anomaly occurred. Around its space was torn apart once more. One after another, equally massive spatial vortices emerged in succession. Then an endless, hopelessly vast fleet surged forth from those vortices like a flood bursting its banks. The paint schemes of those warships were completely different from the Imperial fleet. Their style was more ancient, yet also more domineering. Their numbers were nearly 10 times that of the Imperial fleet, approaching 10,000 ships. As soon as they appeared, they immediately formed an impenetrable encirclement surrounding the Imperial fleet, the insect race's Leviathan fleet, and Lu Minjiwan's Little Hope ship in the middle. The entire Hive Star domain instantly transformed into a massive death cage composed of steel and artillery. On the bridge of the Longyuan ship, Gudong gazed at the massive fleet that had appeared out of thin air on the holographic star map, his brows furrowed tightly. A cold silence enveloped the entire bridge, with only the faint hum of equipment operating audible. What? What is this? Princess Chi Miao, standing beside him, instinctively covered her mouth, with one hand, her beautiful eyes reflecting the outline of the Iron Continent on the star map. A space fortress with a diameter of 300 kilometers. And that fleet emerging from countless whirlpools, seemingly endless. The scene before him and the scale of the warships had far exceeded his comprehension. The current fleet was sufficient to support a large-scale battle. Who are they? Where do they come from? What do they want? A series of questions weighed heavily on everyone's hearts like lead. Immediately analyze all enemy warship models. Scan for identification codes. Confirm their affiliated forces. After a brief moment of shock, Gudong quickly regained his composure, his commanding voice piercing through the stagnant air. His voice remained steady, as always, as if even the collapse of Mount Tai could not shake him. Yes, General. The technicians, as if awakening from a dream, moved their fingers across the control panel, creating a blur. However, the results obtained just seconds later extinguished the flicker of hope that had ignited. Report, General. Our database has no records of the enemy warships. The scan shows that all enemy units have not activated any identification codes. Unable to determine their affiliated forces. A blank. A thorough blank. This fleet was like a ghost crawled out from the grave of history. That character, a staff officer responsible for historical documents, stared intently at the enormous emblem at the center of the fortress, his voice hoarse. It's a Chinese character. Ming. Ming. A young officer was momentarily stunned. Which Ming? What other Ming could it be? The officer's voice suddenly rose, carrying a hint of disbelief. 2,000 years ago, the Ming Dynasty, which should have been crushed and eliminated. The legends are true. They did not perish, they merely hid away. Now, they have returned. They have surrounded us. Marquis Ma's voice sounded like it was scraped by sandpaper. Given their posture, the newcomers do not come with good intentions. The expressions of brothers Qi Yun and Qi Feng had turned extremely grim. Not long ago, they had been reveling in the strength of their 7 divine envoy-class titans and over 1,000 capital ships, believing that this Zerg fleet was already within their grasp. But now, before that space fortress, they humorously realized that their prideful fleet was merely a collection of exquisite toys. In addition to the gigantic space fortress, there were over 20 super capital ships, each exceeding 20 kilometers. In the face of such absolute power, their entire assets combined would likely not be enough to fill a gap in the enemy's teeth. General. Qi Feng's voice had taken on a sobbing tone. What? What should we do? Should we greet them first? Gudong ignored him, his gaze fixed on the star map, his mind racing. The appearance of this Ming fleet was too coincidental, just as they were preparing to close in on the Zerg. Moreover, as soon as they appeared, they formed a formation that indiscriminately surrounded both the Imperial fleet and the Zerg fleet. What could their objective be? Just then, the silent ghost fleet moved. Thousands of cannon ports on that space fortress simultaneously lit up with blinding light. In the next second, thousands of beams formed a wall of light, indiscriminately pouring down upon everything within the encirclement. Their target for attack left everyone's mind momentarily paralyzed. Not the Imperial fleet, not the Zerg fleet. It was everyone, every target within this star region. Whether Imperial warships, Zerg Leviathan fleets, or even the Hope ship, tiny as dust caught in the middle, all were within their attack range. This was indiscriminate clearing. Madmen. They are madmen. The second Prince Qi Feng let out a piercing scream. They want to slaughter us along with the bugs. Activate maximum power shields. Gudong's roar reverberated throughout the entire bridge. All Titans. Fire at will. Target the largest fortress directly ahead. Blast it to smithereens. He no longer had time to ponder the enemy's motives. Since the enemy had opened fire indiscriminately, they could only respond with their own artillery. Boom. In pursuit of the Zerg, the 7 divine envoy-class titans, already charged, let out a thunderous roar. 7 beams strong enough to evaporate a planet tore through the dark universe, slamming violently into the massive space fortress. Meanwhile, all warships of the Imperial fleet overloaded their shield power to the limit. Layers of light blue energy shields unfolded, attempting to construct a great wall of life. However futile. In the face of the enemy's overwhelming firepower, all struggles appeared so ridiculous. The Imperial escort ships at the forefront had shields that barely lasted less than a second, shattering silently like light bulbs struck by hammers. Destructive beams instantly engulfed dozens of warships at the front line. Those war machines made of solid alloys failed to even produce a momentary spark of an explosion before being disintegrated into the most basic particles. On the other side, the 7 beams capable of destroying planets struck the Yongle fortress, a ship of incomprehensible size. The result was merely a series of negligible ripples stirred up on that overwhelmingly thick shield. It couldn't even cause a slight fluctuation in the shield's energy readings. The gap in power was so vast, it was suffocating. Who? Prince Chi-Yun stared at the scene, spitting a mouthful of blood onto the control panel before him. His proud royal fleet, his greatest trump card, was so utterly vulnerable before the enemy. His heart shattered. The worst fate belonged to Lu Minjuan's ship Hope. It was hit simultaneously by dozens of beams, and that ship, carrying all his ambitions along with himself, could not survive even a millisecond before being completely erased from this universe. Lu Mingyuan, the scheming traitor, never understood until his death who he truly fell to. Retreat. Gudong looked at the casualty report on the battle situation chart, instantly stained blood red, his eyes nearly bursting. This was too powerful. All fleets, initiate emergency jump. Immediately evacuate this damned star region. This isn't war. This is slaughter. If they do not leave now, everyone will die here. The emergency activation command of the jump engine sliced through the eerie silence of the bridge of the Longyuan like a bolt of lightning. This was not a conventional, smoothly calculated jump, but a desperate escape that forcefully tore through space without regard for the consequences. The jump engine emitted a painful shriek under extreme overload, the entire warship trembling violently. Warning: jump engine energy overload at 170%. Hull structural integrity is declining. Warning: signals from the 7th and 11th battleships have disappeared. They have been consumed by enemy fire. A young navigator's voice trembled, his face drained of color. Emergency jumps require time, even just a few seconds, but in this forest of death made of beam lights, every second meant the loss of hundreds or thousands of lives. Gudong's pupils contracted to a pinprick. On the holographic star map, the blue dots representing their fleet were rapidly extinguishing in clusters. His fleet, the elite he had personally nurtured, was collapsing like a sandcastle battered by waves. All operational warships converge on the Longyuan. Form a spearhead formation, with the remaining 6 Divine-class Titans as the tip. Give me a way out. Gudong's voice was hoarse, but carried an undeniable resolve. He pointed to a relatively weak point in the formation of the Ming fleet on the star map. Concentrate all firepower on coordinate 1745-89. Ignore attacks from other directions. Use the hull as a shield. Use lives to fill the gap. We only need one opening. One opening to jump out. This was a bloody and cruel command. It meant that the outer warships would become shields, sacrificing themselves to buy those precious seconds for the core fleet. General Gu. Prince Chi-Yun's lips trembled. He wanted to say something, but found any words felt pale and powerless at this moment. His face, usually marked by pride and restraint, was now filled with fear. Gudong did not look at him, his gaze fixed firmly on the battlefield. Every decision he made was tied to the lives of tens of thousands. He had no time to comfort a prince who was terrified out of his wits. Understood, General. The communication channel echoed with resolute responses. The soldiers who might have been complaining about their meals or missing their families on ordinary days executed this deadly command without hesitation. The remnants of the Imperial fleet roared like a pack of wounded wolves. They no longer attempted to defend, but poured all their energy into the engines and weapon systems. Hundreds of warships forcibly turned, using their sides or even their sterns to withstand beams powerful enough to vaporize them instantly, all to aim the main cannon at the point Gudong designated. Boom, boom, boom. A battleship's shield shattered after flickering for a mere 0.3 of a second, and right after the entire warship was bisected by 3 beams, just before the main cannon fired, it severed end smooth as a mirror, with the internal structure and crew unable to burn, directly obliterated in the high-energy particle flow. This was the power of that fortress with 72 oversized secondary guns. As for the main cannon, it was still charging. The captain of a destroyer shouted his final roar over the communication channel. For the Great Qian, fire. The next second, his voice and his warship together transformed into a silent firework in the universe. At the very front of the fleet, the last 5 Divine-class Titans were already battered and bruised. Their armor was riddled with deep wounds, their energy shields long overloaded and ineffective, yet their main cannons lit up with unprecedented frequency, unleashing concentrated energy spears toward the same target without regard for the cost. Energy shield in target area shows fluctuations. Jump preparation complete. The technician's report sounded like music from the heavens. Now, Long Yuan. Entire fleet. Jump. In front of the bow of the Long Yuan, space began to distort and a deep blue vortex appeared out of nowhere. Following closely behind, hundreds of core warships also began to open jump channels. At this moment, the space fortress named Yongla seemed to finally notice the desperate struggle of these ants. A golden beam of light several times thicker than all previous beams combined shot out from the central main cannon of the fortress, aimed directly at the Long Yuan, which was forming the jump field. Wherever that beam passed, space seemed to be scorched with folds. It's too late. Qifeng let out a desperate groan, collapsing to the ground. At the moment when everyone thought the apocalypse had arrived, a divine-class Titan, codenamed Judicator, suddenly turned its massive and battle-scarred body, interposing itself between the golden beam and the fleet. General, run. No grand words, no tragic roars. The next second, boom. There was no sound, only a blinding flash of light. That Titan battleship, representing the pinnacle of the Empire's shipbuilding capabilities along with its thousands of brave crew members, was like ice and snow under the sunlight before the golden beam, melting, disintegrating, and evaporating inch by inch from bow to stern. It didn't even manage to cause a proper explosion. It simply melted away on the spot. But that brief obstruction bought Long Yuan the last half a second. The deep blue jump vortex suddenly expanded, swallowing the Long Yuan and the remaining fleet that followed closely behind. The scenery inside the bridge stretched and twisted violently, transforming into bizarre, colorful patches. When the view cleared again, outside the window was no longer that deadly star region, but a shimmering screen within the jump channel. They had succeeded. They had escaped. Inside the bridge, there was a profound silence. The sense of relief from surviving did not emerge. Instead, it was replaced by a heavier, suffocating sadness. Compile. Casualty report. Minutes later, a bloody number appeared on the main screen. When they set off, the magnificent fleet totaled over 1,000 main warships, 7 divine-class Titans. Now only 4 Titans had successfully escaped, and fewer than 800 main warships followed the jump. 3 Titans would never return. The remaining warships, along with over 1 million officers and soldiers, were forever left in that star region. Thud. Prince Qi Yun's knees buckled, collapsing to the ground, his eyes devoid of spirit, muttering to himself. It's all gone. All of it. My fleet. My Titans. Gudong ignored him, slowly turning away from everyone, looking out at the void beyond the viewport. No one could see his expression at that moment. They could only see his tightly clenched fists, veins bulging on the back of his hands, knuckles turning white from the pressure. After a long while, he raised his hand and gently tapped on the command console. At this moment, the 2 princes had lost their ability to command. Transmit my orders. Gudong's voice regained its coldness and composure. Set the course for a return to Qianlong Star. At the same time, with the highest encryption level, send everything that happened here, including battle footage and enemy data, to the Imperial Command and His Majesty the Emperor. The telegram title. He paused, speaking each word slowly. Ming has revived. The Yongla Fortress Central Command Hall. Unlike the cold metallic feel and purely functional design of the battleship bridge, this place resembles a luxurious palace floating in the cosmos. Beneath, the floor is as warm and smooth as jade, paved with the finest white marble, featuring ultra-thin, flexible screens. Upon closer inspection, faint cloud patterns slowly swirl upon it. The surrounding walls do not display flickering data screens. Instead, they use holographic projection technology to simulate magnificent landscape paintings. Above the dome is a deep, starry sky, slowly rotating, resonating with the real universe outside the hall. In the center of the hall stands a young man dressed in a bright yellow 4-clawed dragon robe, wearing a golden crown, his hands clasped behind him before a massive holographic star map. On the star map, a vast insectoid fleet is being systematically and efficiently cleared. Countless fine red beams like combs repeatedly groom the battlefield, breaking down those ferocious biological warships into cosmic dust. He is a member of the Ming royal family, the current Prince of Qin, Zhu Ai Bei. His title, Prince of Qin, is derived from a powerful dynasty that defended the northwest and expanded territories in the ancient history of Earth. His name, Ai Bei, was personally requested from the emperor when he was conferred adulthood. Your Highness, a commander of the Jinui, dressed in flying fish attire and carrying a beautifully embroidered spring knife, reported with a bow. The insect nest fleet has been confirmed to be 99 cleared, with the remaining remnants expected to be eliminated within 7 minutes. What about the fleet of the Pseudo Dynasty? Zhu Ai Bai's voice was calm, revealing no joy or anger. They have confirmed their escape. According to trajectory, tracking their jump direction points to a system they call the Lyra Alpha constellation. The enemy's counterattack at the last moment was unexpectedly fierce. Our Ming Imperial Army has lost 23 Divine Machine-class battleships, 47 Heavenly Craft-class cruisers and a total of 62 other frigates and destroyers have been lost. 20 super-dreadnoughts suffered varying degrees of light damage. The commander's tone was somewhat incredulous. This was a glorious victory, yet the losses were equally significant. One must realize that they faced merely a local garrison and had already paid the price of nearly 200 main force ships. This so-called Daqian, although viewed by them as a pseudo-dynasty usurping the rightful order of the divine land, has developed military strength over 2,000 years and cannot simply be treated as a soft persimmon. Desperate struggles do show some backbone. Zhu Ai Bei commented lightly, his gaze still lingering on the star map, seemingly in thought. Let the fleet clear the battlefield and collect the wreckage of the pseudo-dynasty's warships for technical analysis. Additionally, send a detailed report of this battle to King Yin and King Jin for their review. Let them know that the path of the northern expedition cannot be won by merely drinking tea in the imperial city. Understood. Once the Jinui commander withdrew, an elderly man with white hair and dressed in the official attire of a third-rank civil servant stepped out from behind Zhu Ai Bei, letting out a slight sigh. Your Highness, today's battle, while showcasing our Mings, might has also completely exposed our existence. Once the pseudo-dynasty receives the news, it will surely cause a national uproar. Our army is strong, but we have been away from our homeland for 2,000 years, and our foundation is unstable. Is such an action perhaps too aggressive? This elder is Wang Qingyan, the tutor of the Prince of Qin. Zhu Ai Bei turned around, and on his handsome face a hint of the youthful vigor emerged. Teacher, how much longer do you think we can take our time? We have hidden in that barbaric land for 2,000 years, enduring for 2,000 years. Every generation has lived for the goal of returning to the old capital. Now that we have finally found a stable route back, are we to continue hiding as we did in the past? He walked to the giant floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the massive fleet clearing the battlefield outside, his tone growing passionate. Since the establishment of our Ming dynasty, 4,752 years have passed, enduring through the reigns of the great ancestor, the Qingzu, and the Shizong, the Guangzhou, 389 emperors, and to this day, in the year of the heavenly hunt, we were born here and grew up here. This starry ocean is our homeland. Now on our homeland there resides a group of descendants who have forgotten their roots, almost losing their own characters and surnames. For such a star domain, our only strategy is pure land. Pure land. Wang Qingyan pondered over these two words, a hint of reluctance flashing in his eyes. Your Highness, this signifies endless war and slaughter. Those pseudo-dynasty's citizens and nobles ultimately. Zhu Ai Bei sneered, raising his hand to point in the air, bringing up a segment of footage intercepted from the Imperial Fleet's communications. In the footage were the terrified faces of Qi Yun and Qi Feng. These images struck like a heavy hammer on Wang Qingyan's heart. Indeed, the reason the Ming dynasty has managed to survive in dire straits until today relies on this almost obsessive adherence and pride in their own civilization. In their eyes, any act diverging from the orthodoxy of the Great Xia is an unforgivable betrayal. Issue the order. Zhu Ai Bei's voice regained its calm, but the determination within was even more resolute than before. All fleets rest for 12 hours, then centered around the Yongla fortress form a spear formation and conduct armed patrols towards the Lyra constellation. I want the pseudo-dynasty to know our Ming has returned. This starry sky is due for a change of ownership. Your Highness is brilliant. Wang Qingyan bowed deeply, no longer advising against it. He understood that this war machine of the Ming dynasty, which had slumbered for 2,000 years once activated, would never stop again unless it restored the old capital and ruled the world, or on the path of the northern expedition bled its last drop. Just then a staff officer hurried over, presenting a freshly compiled report. Your Highness, there is an interesting discovery. The officer's voice carried a hint of amusement. While analyzing the database of that pseudo-dynasty fleet, we discovered a highly protected encrypted file. After decryption, we found that the reason they came here was for a private spacecraft called Hope. And this Hope seems to have been inadvertently vaporized along with the cleanup just now. Oh, Zhu Ai Bei became interested. What makes it special? The owner of this ship is named Lu Mingyuan. The officer's expression became even more animated. What's more interesting is that he is a traitor of the pseudo-dynasty. The reason he appeared here was because he colluded with the insectoids, and one could say the insectoid fleet's presence here was entirely orchestrated by him. Huh. Zhu Ai Bei was first taken aback, then couldn't help but burst into laughter. This laughter echoed in the hall, dispelling some of the previous tense atmosphere. He shook his head, his face full of a bemused expression. Zhu Ai Bei laughed for a long while before waving his hand, signaling the officer to withdraw. He turned his gaze back to the profound universe, the smile at the corner of his mouth, gradually fading, replaced by a deeper confidence. The pseudo-dynasty is so decayed within, embroiled in internal strife, the mandate of heaven. is no longer with them. Transmit my order. The Northern Expedition officially begins. The Qianlong star located in the Daqian Empire. At this moment, the space station established in the orbit of a gaseous giant planet is under the highest state of alert. All the docked reserve battleships have completed their readiness for departure, and the turrets slowly rotate beneath their armor, their muzzles flickering with dangerous ghostly light aimed at the expanse that has just opened several massive jump portals. When the flagship Long Yuan was the first to emerge from the jump vortex, the base commander felt half of his anxiety dissipate. However, as he discerned the scale of the fleet following Long Yuan, his heart sank to the depths once more. A significant number had been lost. In just under 20 minutes of combat, 3 out of 7 Titans were down, and the others were severely injured. Over 200 of the 1,000 main battleships had also been lost. The losses were terrifying. On the bridge of Long Yuan, the atmosphere was so oppressive it felt as if it had solidified. After a brief respite in the jump passage, everyone gradually emerged from their initial shock and sorrow, replaced by a deeper fear of the unknown and a sense of confusion about the future. The base has confirmed our identification code and is guiding us into port, the adjutant reported softly. Gudong nodded, his gaze sweeping over everyone on the bridge. Princess Qi Miao's face remained pale, but her eyes had regained their composure as she focused on a recently transmitted historical document. On the screen, Prince Qi Yun of the Titan flagship sat like a soulless statue, blankly staring at the control panel before him, which still bore the remnants of his own blood. His brother Qi Feng seemed to have had all his spirit drained, cowering in a corner. General, we have received a reply from the command regarding the losses in the battle group. The communication officer has transmitted an encrypted document to Gudong's personal terminal. Gudong opened the file and began to skim through it. The content of the telegram was brief, yet it exuded an arrogance and skepticism from the Imperial Power Center. The command expressed serious concern regarding Gudong's report of the mysterious human fleet that appeared out of nowhere with overwhelming strength. However, much of the text was spent questioning why, despite the Allied fleet being in a position of advantage, so much of their effective force had still been lost. Between the lines, there was skepticism about the strength of the Ming fleet and covert accusations of Gudong's command abilities. It seemed they were still unaware of the true strength of the Ming fleet, believing it to be merely a small power. At the end of the telegram was an order. Gudong and the 3 royal members were to immediately cease all offensive military actions and stay on Qianlong Star, awaiting the investigation team to verify the situation, while the support fleet had already been dispatched. Investigation team. A smile curved at the corner of Gudong's mouth. He could almost imagine how those bureaucrats and politicians who had spent their entire lives in the rear and never set foot on a real battlefield would verify the situation. They will sit in their comfortable conference rooms analyzing battle losses, simulating scenarios, and then arrive at a conclusion of Gudong mismanaged command, exaggerated enemy threats, and shirked responsibility. But now, as long as he sends over the images he captured, they might not be laughing anymore. Because admitting the existence of a human force stronger than the Empire would shake the very foundation of imperial rule. This is something no emperor can tolerate. By then, even the Death Star's such formidable weapons would be withdrawn from the front line against the insect race to fully counter the Ming Dynasty's northward expedition fleet. Father, how can he do this? Princess Qi Miao also saw the content of the telegram, and she abruptly stood up. They don't believe you. They want to place all the blame for the defeat on you. Your Highness, please calm down. Gudong's voice remained steady. This was expected. They think I am lying you. As long as we provide them with the visual data, everything will be fine. Expected. Qi Miao looked at him in confusion. Gudong gazed back, his eyes deep as the sea. Because what our emperor cannot tolerate the most is not defeat, but the challenge to his authority. A fleet calling itself Deming, a ghost of the former dynasty from 2,000 years ago, its very emergence is the greatest provocation to the legitimacy of your Qi dynasty's imperial power. Thus, in the emperor's eyes, this fleet either does not exist or must be weak, easily crushable. They would never think of it as merely a strong army. This straightforward and blunt statement intensified the heaviness in the air of the bridge. Princess Qi Miao opened her mouth, but found herself unable to refute. For what Gudong said was indeed a fact. At that moment, the previously silent Prince Qi Yun suddenly moved. He slowly raised his head, and a flicker of faint light seemed to rekindle in his hollow eyes as he looked at Gudong, his voice hoarse as he spoke. Marquis Gu, you are right. We're all wrong. I always thought that our Qi family's royal fleet was invincible. I believed that with 7 Titans we could act with impunity. Until I personally witnessed the Judicator being burned to ashes before the enemy like paper. He forced a bitter smile. We did not lose to the enemy, we lost to our own ignorance and arrogance. 6. He felt the same. This prince who had always held himself above others seemed to have finally shattered that layer of pride after experiencing such a painful blow, seeing the harsh reality. Elder brother. Chi Feng called out timidly. Chi Yun ignored him, only looking at Gudong, a hint of pleading in his eyes, as he asked General Gu now. What should we do? Are we really going to wait here for those idiots to pass judgment on us? Gudong fell silent for a moment. He walked to the holographic star map, bringing up the massive and despair-inducing model of Yongla Fortress. He extended his finger on the star map, drawing a line from the insect nest to the heart of the empire. The enemy is stronger and more aggressive than we imagined. They are not ghosts, they are the army marching north. Marching north. Chi Miao paused for a moment. Yes. Gudong's gaze fell upon the Ming emblem. The officer said this character is Ming. I believe it is not just a code. If the legend is true, they are the remnants of the Ming dynasty from 2,000 years ago, then their return has only one purpose. To restore the old territories and return to the old capital. Old capital. Could it be? Chi Yun's face instantly turned pale. Exactly. Gudong's voice was cold. Their target is also the capital of our Daqian Empire, Xinjiang. The entire bridge was filled with gasps of shock. And so the story comes to an end. Thank you for watching.